Chapter 2037. Turalian didn't know what Duque was up to, but that didn't stop Duque from secretly laughing. Of course, Duque was a good young man with integrity. Singing songs in his heart, clapping his hands, and shaking his buttocks with joy, this was something that would never happen. Even if he did, he wouldn't admit it. On the other side, Duque felt an inexplicable sense of joy when he saw Ronan being eaten by Bridget. Originally, Duque wanted to take Sasha for a spin, but when he saw Ronan's robe and a smear of dried blood, Duque suddenly wanted to laugh. Sigh. A 30-year-old virgin, whiny with just a touch, Ronan, enjoy that kind of power that can suck dust while sitting on the ground. Duque wasn't in the mood to show off to Ronan. He accidentally picked up Ronan and Turalian's historical wife. This small sense of guilt and great pleasure faded as Ronan found a new love. There was a small incident here. Gavin Rad, the talkative guy, suddenly said, "By the way, Duque's daughter is already so big. Now that Turalian is immortal, age shouldn't be a problem, right? In the human kingdoms of Azeroth, women could get married at 14. That was about right. My daughter was my father's lover in his previous life. You want to steal my lover? No way." Duque's heart immediately sank. "You want to kidnap my little angel? You're asking for it." No. Just like blue dragons, who had their own strange views on love, some fell in love with a well, some liked a fairy sister who resurrected people in a graveyard. Turalian had the attribute of a bubble fairy. Our Annihilus is so cute, how can we let that old man Turalian take advantage of her? In just a moment, Duque made a vicious plan in his heart. On the other side, Turalian obviously didn't take it seriously. He said righteously, "Don't joke around, how could I lay my hands on a little girl?" Aurelia was also very familiar with Gavin Rad. She immediately flew up and pretended to kick Gavin Rad's butt. The troublemaker screamed on the spot. Everyone was happy. Duque spoke up. "Turalian. The Alliance still values all of you. But after all, you have been here for 12 years. There are many things that you need to familiarize yourself with. Otherwise, you won't know how to lead a modern army. Right? Not bad." Turalian was in a good mood. A mage's war was more or less the same. Compared to Ronan, who wasn't completely out of touch, the three paladins were more unfamiliar with modern warfare. Even if Sidan and Alfred went to the Scarlet Crusade, they would first be Bridget's assistants. Duque casually picked up a rifle. Take this AK-47 for example. Oh, an automatic rifle. As long as you open the safety and press the trigger, you can kill an enemy with normal armor from 50 meters away. Turalian took it and tried it out. He found that this thing was really a killing machine for non-professionals. Even a 10-year-old child could operate it smoothly. Turalian nodded. Indeed. The war is tense, and the Alliance doesn't have the time to update your knowledge. You had to learn and work at the same time. Right now, the Alliance has an important mission for you. Turalian stood at attention. Please give the order, Commander. Duque snapped his fingers. Instantly, a magic mirror appeared in the air beside him. The large screen showed the image of a skinny female elf wearing a hood. Because she was too skinny and had a very deformed appearance, Duque and Turalian had the same feeling, that she was probably another elven variant. This image conveyed two things: she's running, and the Burning Legion is probably pursuing her. Sir Lama is in big trouble. Who is she? Turalian and the others all asked the same question. Duque shook his head. We can't be sure. I can only tell you that I can tell from this image that she's a Breaking Dawn wizard. You should know that even in the Kaldorii Empire, where magic flourishes, Breaking Dawn wizards aren't cabbages that can be found anywhere. Duque snapped his fingers, and Vashj, who looked like a high elf, appeared on the communication screen. Vashj saluted Turalyon and said, "If she's a night elf who advanced to breaking dawn through her own cultivation in the past 10,000 years, then I can't guess who she is. But speaking of Sir Lama, there are two great mages that are worth paying attention to. One is Alisanda, and the other is Talisa. During the ancient war, they firmly opposed Queen Azhara's introduction of the Burning Legion. Obviously, the elves and Sir Lama survived after the explosion of the Well of Eternity." Duque said, "Now, the Alliance's division led by William is attacking the Night Fortress that Ghoul, Dan and his subordinates are occupying. This mysterious lesser elf is likely to represent a powerful former Night Elf resistance army. If the Alliance can obtain the assistance of this resistance army, it will be of great help to us in attacking the Night Fortress." Turalyon puffed out his chest and sucked in his stomach. "So my mission is to bring an elite team to contact this mysterious elf wizard, and then act according to the circumstances?" "Yes. I'm amazed by your diplomatic skills and ability to unite people during the second battle at the Dark Portal. Also, you have enough status and identity to act according to the circumstances, and make promises that are of sufficient weight. The bottom line I'll give you is that if the other party is strong enough, you can give the other party the status of a second-class race in the Alliance." Duque thought for a moment, and gave Turalyon a bag of magic crystals. "Also, this is for you. It might come in handy." "Understood." Turalyon accepted the order and ran to prepare. The high positions in the Alliance were not for anyone to sit in. Even though Turalyon was once the Alliance's deputy commander and had a high status, the Alliance was a place where results were the most important. If Turalyon did not show enough ability, how could he sit on the throne of the deputy commander? One had to know that the current Alliance's deputy commanders were more powerful than the other. William and Magni represented the strongest kingdoms of their respective races. Alexstrasza represented the more powerful dragon's slumber shrine. Jaina had the dual identities of the queen and Duque's wife. Apart from his resume, Turalyon's status was much lower than the other big shots. Duque did not remove Turalyon from his position as deputy commander, which was giving him face, but also giving Turalyon a chance to prove himself. When Duque occasionally wandered around Nozdormu's place, he saw that one of the future missions involved a derivative race of the Night Elves, the Children of the Night. According to the original historical development, the Children of the Night would join the Horde in the future. In this life, the Horde no longer existed. If Turalyon could pull a strong race to join the Alliance, the soldiers under him would once again acknowledge Turalyon. Chapter 2038. Reality had proven Turalyon's ability. While Duque was leading his army to attack Sargeraz's tomb, and William was attacking the Night Fortress, Turalyon was the first to achieve something. He first formed a team with Lilith Windrunner and Veilera from William's team. They arrived at Sir Lama and found their target, Talisa, by following the signal left by the female mage in the mysterious message. Together, they found a stronghold. Frankly speaking, Talisa's appearance did not conform to human standards of beauty. Her skin was so blue that it was almost purple. She was tall and slender, and her facial features were sunken like a skull. Among humans, Talisa's appearance would definitely affect the appearance of the city. Turalyon was a true gentleman. He did not look down on her, and instead gave this female elven mage enough respect. After a while, she believed Turalyon. "I'm Talisa, the chief arcanist under Grand Mage Alisanda. The Grand Mage sent me to ask for help." Alisanda was once famous for fighting against the Burning Legion. She led us to abandon Queen Azhara, who had embarked on the path of darkness. Then, she used the power of the Eye of Amon Thul to create the Well of Night, protecting Sir Lama from the destruction of the Great Schism. But 10,000 years later, the Legion came again, and we were all forced to a dead end. Many people began to feel despair. In fact, she is considering forming an alliance with the demons, hoping to use the power of the Well of Night to save everyone once again. Her intentions are good. After all, even with the Well of Night, we have already lost half of our men. The atmosphere of pessimism is spreading. If not for the Alliance's quick arrival, I'm afraid Alessandra would have surrendered long ago. She is hesitating, but if the main force of the Alliance does not come soon, she will step on the path of no return. Turayan was overjoyed when he heard this. The Alliance's path to prosperity was to absorb races and forces that could fight against evil. If they could save this batch of children of the night, it would undoubtedly provide a great help to the Alliance. He immediately revealed his identity. I am the Alliance's deputy commander. I am here to find a way to save the High Elves. Don't worry, the Alliance's fleet is less than 200 kilometers away from here. They are fighting the Burning Legion. We will soon reach here. Talisa was also surprised and worried. Really? Then you have to hurry up. After all, Alessandra was already wavering. Furthermore, my followers and I had been away from the Well of Darkness for far too long. Without the power of the Well of Darkness, our demon addiction was starting to act up. Our bodies and minds would quickly wither, and we would eventually turn into brainless creatures known as withered mages. And the fallen night elves are the transitional stage of the withered mage. Turalian learned some more information through the conversation. The most important was that Alessandra was originally very confident. She led the Chateau Ray, the Children of the Night Resistance Army, to fight against the Burning Legion. Unfortunately, he was beaten up by Ghoul Dan's subordinates. Every time they captured a captive of the Child of Night, they would perform all sorts of torture and slaughter outside the protective barrier of the Dark Night Well, lighting up the sky lanterns, and so on. After losing more than half of their elites, Chateau Doriai's morale was extremely low. Talisa said, "We need reinforcements, not empty promises. 200 kilometers. If all goes well, of course we can reach it in a day. If you guys are defeated, it will only increase our losses." Turalian was stunned for a moment, but he immediately thought of a solution. "Here, this is for you." A large pile of incomparably pure magic crystals could completely satisfy Talisa's thirst for magic power. Like a drug addict, Talisa greedily absorbed the magic power in the crystals. Turalian noticed that the face of the skinny elf woman before him had actually swelled up, and her facial features had also begun to fill up. Although she still looked tired, for some reason, that elegant face of hers made his heart palpitate with eagerness. Turalian was a gentleman, and he quickly looked away. He opened the dozens of high-grade spatial bags that Duque had given him. A strange weapon appeared in front of Talisa and her subordinates. This is the Alliance's new, AK-47 automatic pretentious rifle. Each magazine is equipped with 30 special bullets engraved with holy light runes. As long as it's within 60 yards, even a child can use it to kill demons below the elite level. Really? Like a qualified arms dealer, Turalian immediately took out the second weapon. This is the RPG punches your chest rocket launcher. It's loaded with highly concentrated solid holy water. As long as it hits, it can effectively kill a mid-tier elite demon within 100 yards. We brought 5,000 rifles, 600 rocket launchers, 300,000 rounds of bullets, and 10,000 rockets. We'll provide all of them to you unconditionally. Talisa's eyes instantly lit up, filled with surprise and joy. She couldn't wait to take her people out for a spin and test it out. When she returned, she directly gave Turalian a hot kiss. Ugh, this old holy knight who hadn't touched a woman for 12 years suddenly felt moved. Next, Talisa actively contacted the Alliance to prepare for the general attack on Sir Lama. She also combined the research results of her good friend and began to rescue and contact the scattered children of the night who couldn't enter the protection range of the night well in time. She used the Alliance's new infantry training method to train the children of the night. At the same time, Talisa let Valilla infiltrate Sir Lama city as a spy. With the help of Lady Moon and Venzer, she disintegrated the surrender faction of Surlama's upper echelons from the inside, roped in the suffering citizens, and assassinated some key figures. As time passed, 15 days later, Duque received news that Varian had conquered the Night Fortress. It wasn't strange that Varian had beheaded Gul'dan. What was strange was that Turalian and two blue-skinned female children of the Night Archmages knelt on one knee in front of Duque. This. Turalian, what are you doing? I'm sorry, I'm guilty. I exceeded the authority given by the throne conference. How so? Duque raised his eyebrows. This kind of thing could be big or small. If Turalian agreed to give the children of the night the status of a first-class race, many of the leaders of the throne conference would probably be unhappy. It was I, Alessandra, who suggested it. We are high elves, and we don't believe in empty promises. Only bloodline is the key to maintaining the alliance. That's why I proposed a marriage alliance with Sir Turalian. Alessandra, the leader of the Children of the Night, was supposed to be the final boss of the Night Fortress, second only to Gul'dan. Who knew that in this life, the Alliance's attack on the Shattered Isles was too timely, giving the Children of the Night hope. Coincidentally, just as she was about to give in, Turalian represented the Alliance and sent her 3 gifts of warmth. As a result, the Children of the Night who had sided with the Burning Legion joined the Alliance, reducing the difficulty of conquering the Night Fortress by half. Chapter 2039. Wow! The Alliance leaders were in an uproar. Who was Turalian? One of the 5 Silver Saints, the first Paladin. He was famous for being a good person. While he was not as passionate about the holy light as Uther, he was also famous for his noble character. It would have been fine if he hadn't come back, but now he was with a Grand Mage? What was going on? Wait, Turalian. Don't tell me you got on the ship first and then paid for the ticket? Gavin Rad asked again. This was just some cheap paladin's teasing. Who knew that Turalian's face would turn red, and he could not say a word? Sorry, I let the holy light down. I didn't pass the test. Turalian lowered his head in shame. In fact, Miss Talisa too, seduction? Yes. Even Duque was full of praise for the High Elves' methods of serving people. They all agreed after trying. However, even Duke did not expect Turalian to be so ferocious. He was able to take care of Talisa and Alessandra, the 2 older sisters, in one go. This, as expected, Turalian's maximum damage to female elves specialization could shine at any time. Duque was clearly hugging Sasha. Why did he feel like he only won a little and not a big one? Gavin Rad was unhappy. He thought of himself as handsome and elegant, but he did not expect that the first of the 5 Silver Saints to marry more than one wife according to the Alliance's new marriage law was Turalian, who had thick eyebrows and big eyes. F***CK. Aren't you afraid of having a bunch of purple children in the future? As expected, these words had a psychological impact. Turalian's face immediately froze. Duque rolled his eyes at Gavin Rad. Gavin Rad, are you very free? I have a difficult task for you. What? Is it like Turalian's order to pick up girls? Alright, this was a term he had learned from Duque. On the other side, Trajan was extremely embarrassed. No. This is more important. Your new position is Orthotropic High Temperature Condensed Material Stabilization and Migration Professional Engineer. Gavin Rad was dumbfounded. He asked tentatively, this. Can you not use jargon, speak human language? No, I just want you to set an example for the combat readiness personnel in the rear. Go to the construction site and carry bricks. Remember to summon the holy light in your body. Duque gave Gavin Rad a demigod's contempt. Gavin Rad was stunned and petrified. All the leaders burst into laughter. Hee hee. How could such a high-tech thing not be highlighted with golden holy light? JPG. After taking care of Ghoul Dan, the biggest reward wasn't that they had pacified Sir Lama, but that most of the experts who had participated in the battle had obtained more than half a set of divine artifacts. William had a full set of divine equipment: Seer's Helmet of Charge, Predos Valisak's Masterpiece, Kazarak's Virginia's Rage, Manarotha's Blood Shackles. It was as if William had escaped the life-destruction calamity on the shattered beach, and his luck had improved. No, it was an explosion of luck. If Duque's friends from back then were here, they would definitely shout, "Hey! Europeans, please eat my African chief's spear." Sigh. You can't blame society for being unlucky. If you're really afraid that you're not good enough, why don't you just tattoo a Peppa Pig on your arm? In fact, due to the fact that the various leaders of the Alliance had taken turns to kill countless void overlords, their harvests were rather shocking. Most of them had at least half a set of divine equipment. Even Gavin Rad, who was the most unlucky, had 4 sets of divine equipment. The only exception was Duque, who only had 2, which he had obtained from the Jade Nightmare. Everyone was a little worried. The honest man couldn't help but suggest, "Duque, you're about to face kill Jaden at his peak. As the main force, shouldn't you go to other places to get some divine equipment? Even for someone as powerful as you, it would be a great improvement if you had a set of divine equipment." Sigh, an honest man is indeed an honest man. He already has a pair of wings of the son of the night, yet he's still so considerate. Actually. Duque snapped his fingers, and an illusory 3-dimensional projection of a human figure immediately appeared in front of everyone. The projection was very realistic, starting from the most basic bones of the human body, to muscles, blood vessels, skin, and finally becoming an identical Duque. The most eye-catching thing was the set of equipment on Duque's body. Every leader of the Alliance was dumbfounded. The equipment he was wearing was clearly an entire set of Frost Element Mage artifacts. Belovar's Last Stand, Ronan's Assault Wristband, Rune Master's Mysterious Battle Dress, Exodar Fragment, the Frost Elemental Aura that overflowed from every piece of divine equipment made every pharaoh envious. Only Jaina seemed to be deep in thought, and then she revealed a smile. Kalia secretly tugged at her good sister's sleeve. "What's the matter? Why isn't Duque willing to wear it?" "Hey! Men, it's all about face." That's right, this was the era where divine equipment could be found everywhere. Mortal powerhouses who worked together with the Azeroth Star Soul and the Pantheon to strengthen Azeroth were actually using the path of conversion and reprocessing. Not many people had considered why they had to kill the enemy to have a chance to pick up divine equipment. Why not just create a bunch of divine equipment for everyone? To put it bluntly, there was no food at home, so they could only rely on robbing. Since divine equipment could exert power beyond the mortal world, it was destined to be made of extraordinary materials, and it must contain or be able to borrow a huge amount of power. If they really wanted to provide tens of thousands of divine equipment unconditionally, it might not even be enough to drain the energy of the entire planet Azeroth. While the Burning Legion's frenzied attack brought destruction to Azeroth, as long as they killed powerful demons, they would have the opportunity to cleverly convert the other party's life and soul energy for their own use. This snowballing style of fighting was very similar to the Calamity Army back then. They killed other people's soldiers and resurrected them as their own soldiers, turning the spearhead to deal with the other party. The Pantheon released a large number of blueprints and charging methods for divine equipment, making this batch of divine equipment more like a product made on an assembly line, and it was more widespread. Duque was so busy, of course, he could not manage the mage profession hall. Since the mages below had received orders to create mage equipment with Azeroth characteristics, the names of the divine equipment naturally followed the prototype of the equipment, with various allusions to Azeroth. For example, Belwar's Last Stand, the allusion to this divine equipment robe was during the third battle of the Dark Portal. The last thing Kuel Salas's Grand Mage Beloir Serona did when Silvermoon City fell was to teleport the Countess at that time, the current leader of the Blood Elf Paladins, Riataline, to a safe place. Chapter 2040. Another example was Ronan's assault wristband. The inscription on the wristband was, "Powerful mages like Kirin Tor leader Ronan often use magic wristbands to stabilize the magic that spills from their fingertips." If one looked closely, they would find that the arrangement of the inscription on the first batch of Ronan's wristbands had a strange sense of disharmony. This was because there was actually the word Qian in front of Kirin Tor leader. After all, when Duque and the Pantheon had finished discussing the distribution of the divine equipment, Ronan was still missing. In fact, almost 99% of the people treated Ronan as a dead person. The mages below wanted to suck up to Duque, but they also wanted to commemorate Ronan's achievements when he was the chairman of Kirin Tor. In the end, they named the mass-produced divine equipment wristband. They didn't expect Ronan to return in just a few days. How embarrassing. The group of mages had to think of a way to change the inscription. Otherwise, Ronan would become the chairman of Kirin Tor. Even if Ronan was a good person and didn't pursue the matter, if some of Ronan's followers or brainless fans pursued the matter, the group of Pharaoh in charge of finalizing the inscription would also suffer. They also didn't expect that this batch of revised inscription wristbands that had lost their divine powers would become rare treasures. Moreover, the people below sucked up to him. Every set of mage divine equipment had a divine equipment with the same name. That was Duque's magic crown. It was praised as the Lord of the Four Elements, the Master of the Weave, and the strongest mage god of Azeroth, Duke Marcus. The people below could use this divine equipment and even be proud of it, but Duque was too embarrassed to use it. This was no longer business flattery, this was simply shameless self-praise. There were similar mass-produced divine equipment such as the Ice Element Necklace, Jaina's Wisdom, and the Fire Element Belt, Kale, that's Phoenix Belt. How could Duque wear these divine equipment? In this life, Ronan and Jaina were Duque's disciples, and Kai Zi was Duque's direct subordinate. Think about it, if a divine equipment named after a disciple and subordinate was worn by Duque, thief embarrassment plus 10,086. Everyone understood this point, and when they saw that Duque was only using a mirror image as a clothes rack to wear these artifacts, it was not hard to understand. They all laughed evilly. Since Duque had a set of divine artifacts with him, there was nothing to worry about. Everyone's focus was on how to deal with Kill Jaden. This cunning and powerful commander of the Burning Legion was definitely the scariest enemy of the Azeroth people, even above Sargeras. As a fallen titan, Sargeras had never truly entered planet Azeroth. Everyone only had a vague idea of how powerful he was. Regardless of whether it was its abilities, destructive power, or even its basic physique, he didn't know much about it. Facing a powerful enemy who only had a vague experience, no one felt that it was real. Kill Jaden was different. Many of the veteran leaders in the Alliance had fought against the egg in the Battle of the Sunwell. Although it was only an egg that had only half of its strength and was stuck in the toilet bowl of the teleportation channel, it did not prevent everyone from personally experiencing Kill Jaden's strength. This time, the egg had made a comeback. Even though everyone's strength had already skyrocketed, they still didn't feel like they could defeat the egg. Of course, the people of Azeroth had their own confidence. With Duque as the leader, they were a group of demigod powerhouses who had been apotheosized by mortals. They were the strongest, and the ones that the Alliance was the most proud of. Whether it was the Green Tide of the Orcs, the Bone Sea of Calamity, or the World Destroyer Demon Army, Duque and the others had never been afraid. They had won every time. When Duque threw out the configuration of the enemy in Sargeras's tomb and emphasized that this was an enemy that they could possibly meet, and that they could possibly have this and that kind of special ability, everyone took it as the truth. Having a transmigrator as a boss was just that blissful. Gavin Rad, the guy who spouted nonsense, even said loudly, "Duque, there's no need to explain. I know you must have gotten some powerful female demon to be your spy. Dooku was really a piece of sh*t, even if he wasn't sh*t, he was still sh*t. I clearly haven't even touched the Eridar Gemini, okay? Fine. There was no need to explain. Explaining was just a cover-up. Facing Duke's aggrieved gaze, the group of animals below burst into laughter. Duke gave William and Magni a look, and the two of them understood what he was trying to convey. In the next second, a small mental discussion space formed by Duke and the various deputy commanders of the Alliance silently took shape in the conference room. Now, Alexstrasza had joined the Alliance as the representative of the Guardians, and was a deputy commander. The other deputy commanders all felt that they were much more powerful to be able to be a deputy commander with the ancient dragon aspect. Duke, what wicked idea do you have this time? Magni's mental voice was as rough and bold as his words. Don't come up with anything to scare us this time. William laughed. Although that was what he said, when Duke revealed his plan. Magni, who seemed to be participating in the discussion in the room, staggered and almost fell to the ground. William, who was holding his cheek with one hand, almost knocked his head on the conference table. Turalyon was dumbfounded. Alexstrasza almost slid under the chair. Only Queen Sylvanas was rather pleased. The five guys roared in the small discussion group in the Spirit Sea, F***CK. Duke pursed his lips. This is for the sake of victory. The five fellows were speechless. Are we really going to do this? William smiled bitterly. Yes. All right, you're the boss, you call the shots. Anyway, I have a stone brain, I can't think of such things. William, what's the word that Duke often uses to describe sly people? Magni asked. Old sly bastard. William did not bat an eyelid and sold out his senior, Duke. Yes, old sly bastard. We won't participate in the internal conflict between you and Kill Jaden. Anyway, we'll just do whatever you say. Magni was rather straightforward. August of the 36th year of the Dark Portal, 5 months after the Burning Legion launched an all-out attack, the Allied forces began a frenzied interception mode. Almost all the aerial forces were sent to the Void battlefield to intercept the Burning Legion starships. At the same time, Duke stepped up the destruction of the army's teleportation portals. This greatly weakened the army's replenishment of demonic soldiers. At the same time, the Allied forces gathered more than 5 million troops to attack the Tomb of Sargeras. After fighting in the day, they shot more than 10,000 flares per hour at night, illuminating the entire sky region as if it was daytime. Continue fighting. Every unit was on the list of attrition warfare. They simply disregarded casualties. As long as the exchange ratio was reasonable, they would fight until they lost 30% of their troops before being allowed to rest. After quickly replenishing new soldiers and armaments, they would be pulled back to the front line in less than 5 days. Chapter 2041. Duque seemed determined to pour all the weapons that the Alliance had stockpiled for 10 years into the Tomb of Sargeras within a week. It was very easy for anything to go from quantitative change to qualitative change. When the Alliance unreasonably used a large number of holy light weapons to bombard the target area, all defenses became mere decorations. The lack of a large magic formation was the biggest failure of the Burning Legion in the Tomb of Sargeras. At first, Kill Jaden secretly ordered the Apocalypse Guards to fly into the sky to intercept the incoming shells. But the results of the battle soon proved that the demons were good at attacking and not good at defense. Asking this group of people who only knew how to kill and kill to form a defensive formation or something was too difficult for this group of rough men. Kill Jaden felt like he had shot himself in the foot. Since 25,000 years ago, the Burning Legion had been helpless against the anti-Titan formation of Azeroth. The powerful space seal made it difficult for the demons to enter the planet from the outside. Unless they had the powerful energy of the planet as a fulcrum. But even with the support of the Well of Eternity in the ancient war, the demons' military force did not exceed 100 million. The number of demons entering the planet never exceeded 10,000 per hour. Many battles proved that whether the Burning Legion could gain an advantage was closely related to whether they had a local energy source, and whether the local army could react in time. If they reacted in time and cut off the energy source of the portal, the demon army would be a problem. Jaden would never have thought that if it was at this point in history, 3 of the 5 dragon aspects would have fallen in Azeroth, leaving only Alexstrasza and the second blue dragon king Kalegos. This caused the space formation of the void battlefield to collapse, and the Burning Legion would be able to enter and exit at will. In this life, the Alliance's reaction was too fast. That premeditated ambush made the Burning Legion very uncomfortable. Moreover, the existence of the 2 satellite fortresses around the planet brought irreparable damage to the Burning Legion. Things like planet destroyers were gone once they exploded. Without the planet destroyers, the Burning Legion's military force was greatly reduced by the assault ships. This was why Jaden couldn't launch a counterattack under the Alliance's fierce attack. Bastard! 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 At the bottom of Sargera's tomb, the egg was cursing. "Commander, what do we do now?" an abyssal lord asked. The egg waved its crimson claw. "There's no other way." The key now was to lure Duke Marcus into Sargera's tomb. As long as he, the strongest demigod proficient in spatial magic, falls into our trap, then the situation will open up. That's right. He didn't even need to kill Duke on the spot. Just the energy shielding effect of Sargera's corpse alone could prevent Duque from controlling the entire alliance. Kil'jaeden believed that once the alliance lost Duque, all military coordination would drop by more than a level. After all, not many of these native beings were proficient in space warfare. With the Dragon Sleep God Temple's method, the Burning Legion would definitely be able to play around with those big lizards in the void battlefield. Once the number of demons had increased, they would be able to send out more Eridar wizards to open the portal and send in more demons, creating a snowball effect. "Commander, what if that Duke Marcus doesn't come?" "Impossible. He should have guessed that I've already descended here, but he can't confirm my existence. My secrecy is absolute. Even if he confirmed it, he wouldn't have the courage to let me go. As time passes, our Burning Legion will be able to revive Lord Sargeras in Azeroth." Titans were too huge. During the Ancient War, Sargeras had desperately shrunk his body in an attempt to squeeze into the portal. But no matter how much he shrunk himself, the mass of a Titan and the energy contained within his body couldn't be easily changed. Thus, Sargeras's plot was to cut himself into pieces and transport them over bit by bit. Finally, he would be reassembled in Azeroth, which meant resurrection. Finally, he achieved the mission of dealing with Azeroth. That was how he had used a clone to come to Azeroth and kill Aegwynn. Then, he hid his soul in Aegwynn's stomach, and finally used Aegwynn's son to smash Medivh to cause trouble. Now, this plot had reached the final step, resurrection. It wasn't that easy to resurrect a fallen Titan. Not only did it require powerful energy, but it also required a large amount of blood sacrifice, as well as the soul and flesh of a child of destiny. Originally, Sargeras's target was the child of destiny who carried the fate of light and shadow, Illidan. After gouging out Illidan's eyes, Sargeras had left enough foreshadowing. This was a very mysterious plan of moving in the dark. But when the Legion arrived again, Kil'jaeden, who had secretly descended to Azeroth, discovered a serious problem. Something was wrong. The first thing was that Illidan wasn't dead. Originally, if Illidan had died, Gul'dan would have stolen Illidan's body. In addition, Illidan had already sacrificed his soul to the Legion and stored it in the Twisted Nether as a primer to resurrect Sargeras. The second thing was that Illidan didn't seem to carry more of the power of destiny in Azeroth as they had initially thought. These 2 points directly led to the fact that if Sargeras was resurrected like this, his strength would definitely be weaker than originally expected. That was very awkward. After descending to Azeroth, Jaden went through a series of evil rituals and finally deduced that if he wanted Sargeras to be resurrected perfectly, he would need at least one more soul as a sacrifice. That was, the soul of Duke Marcus. Unknowingly, this magical human had already obtained the trust of the Star Soul of Azeroth in one battle after another, and dominated the fate of the entire planet. As the child of destiny, he was even more valuable. In a sense, it was his great achievements that made the Star Soul willing to give him more power and place more hope on him. So if he wanted to destroy Azeroth and resurrect Sargeras perfectly, he had to catch Duque. This was the reason why Jaden had been holding back when he launched the Legion's invasion in the past few days. Originally, Jaden was prepared to fake the competition and let these natives be a little more. He didn't expect these native creatures to be many times stronger than 10,000 years ago, no, even 36 years ago. Without his permission, these mortal creatures used their own methods to destroy the Burning Legion's army with incomparably violent momentum. Chapter 2042. Fire. 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 Don't be afraid of running out of ammunition and cannons. Our commander has already filled every warehouse with those things. Lang yelled. The Holy Light rune cannons were quite effective against demons. However, they were a little troublesome when used in the military. The lifespan of the cannons would decrease with the accumulation of large amounts of Holy Light elements. After firing 200 rounds, a tank's cannon would become useless. Otherwise, if the Holy Light elements were too dense, the cannons would experience metal fatigue and shatter. In order to maintain the balance between light and shadow and fire a certain number of times, they even had to find shadow potions made by warlocks to be used as lubricant to irrigate the cannons. From the railway cannons with a diameter of more than 800 mm, to the main cannons of battleships, to the 203 mm of heavy cruisers, to the 155 mm of light cruisers, to the 100 mm of destroyers, and finally to the 88 mm, 40 mm of anti-aircraft cannons, and field cannons for street battles. The cannons of the Alliance formed a perfect gradient from high to low. As for the infantry, each squad was equipped with at least 5 improved Iron Fist X rocket cannons. This allowed mortals to have enough weapons to fight against demons. Such a top-down reform of black technology was far better than relying on millions of ordinary people to put on a pile of divine artifacts and fight with their bodies of flesh and blood. Although the method of mass-producing artifacts allowed mortals to obtain the power to contend against armies, it was also a great blow to the vitality of the planet. After this earth-shattering war, the entire planet would degenerate. The concentration of elements would greatly decrease, and magic would no longer be powerful. This would be the so-called end of days. Duque used black technology to equip the entire camp with tens of millions of troops, greatly reducing the pressure on Azeroth. This was also why the Alliance could suppress the Burning Legion on local battlefields. With the firepower support of the Alliance that even the Titan Legion was surprised, the Titan creations were even more ferocious. The coordination of the infantry cannons of the veterans was the Alliance's greatest treasure. The method of indiscriminately bombarding the enemy's position before charging forward was far better than using the Titan Giants' creations and relying solely on their bodies and strength to face the enemy head-on would result in fewer losses. Also, the coordination of the Holy Light faction's infantry cannons was far more impressive than the infantry cannons of modern warfare on Earth. Cannons of Holy Light didn't mind friendly fire. Most of the gunpowder inside the Holy Light rune cannonball had been replaced with liquid or solid Holy Light matter. Apart from the shrapnel when the cannonball exploded, the Holy Light matter was harmless to Titan creations. This could easily achieve the feat of firing at me. As long as they sent more thick-skinned Titan creations, such as those iron colossuses, they would basically not be at a disadvantage against the demons. While the devil was dismantling the Colossus into parts, the devil was also half dead from the bombardment. With Duque's accumulated good karma, the Titan powerhouses that he had saved so many times had become the biggest factor in their victory. Attack! Mimiran's electronic eyes flickered as he shouted from the safety of Naxxrama's command post. Countless iron dwarves, spider robots, and heavy tanks took the lead and charged at the demon guard groups of the Burning Legion, which had already been bombarded into a mess. Basically, after the mechanical army fought one wave, and by the time the Alliance's professional corps and Odin's Waggly's second wave went up, the battle in the area had already ended. On the 10th day of the mad attack on Sargeraz's tomb, when multiple reconnaissance teams reported that there was no organized demon army surging out, the entire Alliance command post burst into thunderous cheers. Ha ha ha. Go to hell. Demons. Go back to your twisting nether. Duque clapped his hands. Attention, now it's the Guardian team and the Alliance's hero team on the field. Here in Sargeraz's tomb, the mission of the mortal troops had been completed. At least the Alliance powerhouses didn't have to expend a lot of effort to break through the entire demon formation to break into Sargeraz's tomb. There were still quite a few demons, and the demons that were generally 5 or 6 stories tall were naturally dealt with by the Alliance's elite teams. Go! Lena Thunderspear was piloting a short Gundam. She leaped into the air, and her mechanical short legs made a posture similar to a moonwalk. Then, she smashed a 3-story-tall Abyssal Lord-type demon with a hammer. The Lord of the Abyss was a species that was used for charging. Dodging and whatnot didn't exist. When a head-on attack didn't work, it would turn into minced meat. 2 Shivalos rushed up and shot a series of ice arrows at Milhouse's Mana Storm on Lena's Gundam, turning it into a sieve. The second-tier heroes of the Alliance used their mechas and their martial strength to open the way for the Alliance's most elite assault force. They killed their way to the entrance of Sargeraz's tomb. Alcavan and the other 3 Guardians used their huge 10-story bodies to block the entrance after everyone entered. This was to cut off the possibility of other demons coming to support them. In the depths of the graveyard, Kill Jaden frowned. The Alliance's lineup was too gorgeous. The Guardians were Odin, Torim, Freya, Hodier, Mimiran. The god of the wilderness was Goldring, Tortola, Iwina, and the Bear Brothers. The mortals were led by Duque and Magni Bronzebeard, who were fully equipped with divine artifacts. For some reason, the mortals were all wearing thick robes that covered themselves tightly. But from their armor and body size, one could generally tell that the Alliance had sent out all its heroes this time. Basically, only second-tier powerhouses and commanders like Bulang Bronzebeard, Danath Trollbane, and Bridget were left outside to maintain command of the army. The most capable of fighting were all here. Even though Kill Jaden had arranged a large number of powerhouses in the graveyard, he still felt that it was a little difficult. Outsiders might not know, but Kill Jaden obviously knew that this batch of Guardians in Azeroth was special. Back when the Titans descended on Azeroth, they had racked their brains to destroy the Darkness Empire. The Titans were simply too huge. The Titan, Avenger, Agrama was worried that if they were not careful, they would cause irreparable damage to the Star Soul, or even take its life. In order to solve this problem, he proposed to create a powerful construct to act on their behalf and completely destroy the Darkness Empire according to their wishes. Thus, under the leadership of the great forger Kaz Garoth, the Pantheon built an army whose source was from Azeroth, Ashier and Vanier. Ashier was made of metal and wielded the power to command storms, Vanier was made of rock, and the earth was under their control. And these 2 powerful beings were called the Titans' creations. Chapter 2043. The servants of the Titans were fortunate enough to have their appearance and power bestowed by the Titans of the Pantheon to lead the rest of the Titans' creations. These blessed creations were the guardians of the world. Although they would eventually form their own personalities in the future, they would forever carry the appearance and abilities of the creators. The Supreme Father, Amon Thul, bestowed a portion of his vast power to the great guardian Ladin and the guardian Odin. The Forger, Kaz-Garoth, bestowed his divine power to control the earth and forging to the guardian Azardas. The Rager, Gorganas, bestowed the guardian Torim and the guardian Hodor with the power to control the storm and the sky. The Life-Giver, Iona, bestowed the guardian Freya with the power to control all the plants and animals in the Azeroth. The Dreamweaver, Noganon, bestowed a portion of his wisdom and proficiency in magic to the guardian Loken and the guardian Mimilan. In the end, the Avenger, Agrama, bestowed his strength and courage to the guardian Tyr, and he became the most powerful warrior among the Titans' creations. Ladin was sent by the Titans to Pandaria to destroy the remnants of Yashaji's life. He fell into a deep sleep for unknown reasons, and was defeated by one of the ancient Devil's kings, the Thunder God, and his source of power was taken away. Azardas was in charge of guarding Uldaman. Unfortunately, over the years, he had been eroded by all kinds of corruption and curses, and was no longer as powerful as before. Later, he was defeated by the elite dwarves who explored Uldaman. Comrade Lang Bronzebeard, who excavated the ruins of the Titans all year round, refused to admit that it had anything to do with him. Loken was brainwashed by Yogg-Saron, and decisively turned from a loyal subject to a traitor. Later, he was defeated by Duque and Torim. Tyr, on the other hand, had it worse. When he discovered that Yogg-Saron had brainwashed most of the Guardians, he ran away, and was eventually hunted down in the Tirisful forest. The Tyr's hand in Lordaeron actually commemorated him. Even though so many Guardians had died, the remaining Guardians were still quite powerful. After the Pantheon and the Alliance reached a deal, the Titans had remote-controlled these Guardians. Now, their strength was extremely fierce. The unexpected strengthening of the Guardians gave Kil'jaeden a huge headache. Back in the day, Duque had tricked him and destroyed his upper body, forcing him to hide in the deepest part of the Twisted Nether and slowly revive in the supercomposite matrix. To be more precise, he was recovering his body. The strength of the body was directly proportional to the difficulty of recovery. If Kil'jaeden had the physique of a sludge monster, he might be alive and kicking again in a day or two. On the surface, Kil'jaeden is an Eredar warlock, but in reality, the strength of his body is not inferior to Archimonde, who likes to fight head-on in the Burning Legion. This caused a lot of trouble for the recovery of his body. At the same time, he had done many good deeds in the past. He was extremely afraid that he would be betrayed while he was recovering his body, so he completely concealed his will so that the Void Dukes below could not determine the state of his mental power. In addition, he had been nurturing the opposition for 25,000 years, accumulating the conflicts between the various races and factions in the army. This caused the Burning Legion to fall into a considerable degree of chaos. Most of the feudal lords were busy fighting for power, but there was not a single powerful Void Duke who could unify the army and challenge him for the position of commander. It was only 5 years ago that he barely recovered his body and could spare some energy to manage things. It took another full year to barely unify the Burning Legion. Only then did Kil'jaeden have the energy to carry out intelligence reconnaissance in Azeroth. Very quickly, he discovered a serious problem. So many years of lack of intelligence had caused a gap in the intelligence system. The worst part was that it was because of the two hateful traitors, the Eredar Gemini twins, who were standing in the way. In addition, the Alliance had unified the mortal forces in Azeroth, and there was no effective place to spy on Azeroth. Back then, when Kil'jaeden's most outstanding intelligence demon was in the position of anti-spy, it was a nightmare. Whether it was the lowest level succubus, the higher level Shivala, or the female Eredar, none of the demons could get any effective intelligence. They only knew that after the Battle of the Well of the Sun, the Alliance had won one battle after another and had never lost. Moreover, they were on the same side as the Dragon Slumber Temple and Otter. The Alliance was also actively preparing for the Burning Legion's return. The asymmetry of intelligence caused a lot of inconvenience. If it was any other planet, with the Burning Legion's overwhelming military strength, there was no need for any tactics or strategies. They could just charge and be done with it. Azeroth was different. The Burning Legion had been defeated here many times. As a last resort, Kill Jaden tried to tempt the two traitors, Aureus and Sailoras. Not only did he promise that as long as they returned to the Legion, he would let bygones be bygones. He also promised them great benefits, saying that as long as they returned, he would make them the Legion's deputy commander-in-chief. Who knew? They steeled their hearts and only left behind a sentence of, "Kill Jaden, we know you too well," before leaving. Anything else was just, "I don't want to listen to the tortoise's scriptures." Brother Egg was furious. That's right, they knew him too well. Even if he let them go for the sake of victory, with his personality, he would definitely settle the score after the fall. The failure of the intelligence work only improved when he handed over the work to the matriarch, Saslan. However, his understanding of the Alliance was limited to the middle and low-level officers. Once it reached the top, it suddenly became extremely difficult to infiltrate. All the high-ranking generals, nobles, and their families were protected by paladins from the Silver Hand and holy priests from the Church of Holy Light. Even if the high-ranking officers didn't believe in the Holy Light, they would be baptized by the Holy Light and Holy Water on a regular basis. In order to hoard arms and food, the Alliance implemented a national rationing system, which made the value of private property temporarily fall to a negligible level. Without privatization, there was not too much greed. And the desire for survival could continue to maintain the Alliance's enthusiasm for production and work from top to bottom. Races were about to go extinct and the planet was about to be destroyed, so don't talk about the 8-hour workday and human rights. Although Kill Jaden also knew that the best countermeasure to deal with such a tense approach was to ignore it and attack from the back, his boss Sargeras refused. It was precisely the asymmetry of intelligence that caused problems in Kill Jaden's formation. Because there were too many strong people on the Alliance's side, Kill Jaden had to change the original method of each leader guarding the checkpoint to a swarm. Chapter 2044. On the second floor of Sargeras's tomb, Kill Jaden chose the largest underground square and let several leaders swarm over. Gross, a once incomparably powerful lord of the Abyss. As punishment for his past failures, Gross's entire body was covered in burns. The current Gross was like the hellfire of the army, his entire body seemed to be made of burning green stones. Apart from the four-legged dragon-shaped lower body and the fat upper limbs unique to the Lord of the Abyss, it was basically impossible to tell that he once had a noble identity. Every movement of the beast caused his flesh to crack and crackle, and at the same time, it was accompanied by endless pain. As a powerful combat creature, he was appointed by Kill Jaden as the first boss of Sargeras's tomb. He was happy to inflict this pain on all those who challenged him. Whether it was as the Lord of the Abyss or the current molten monster, he was always at the front. For the army, he roared and rushed towards the wall of flesh and blood formed by the huge guardians. Just as he was about to rush in front of the Alliance powerhouses, this molten monster fiercely smashed the ground with its two thick front legs. The earth was surging, and green lava that could be seen with the naked eye passed under the solid floor, arching up an entire row of floor tiles with a crackling sound. When the molten was about to rise into 3 black lava pillars that would take 10 people to wrap their arms around, the Ice Guardian Hodier shouted, "I'll do it." The huge frost axe fiercely struck the ground, and a wave of frost elements that were even more powerful than Gross was injected into the ground. At the same angle, it met the lava flow head-on. The lava flow, which had yet to fully unleash its violent destructive power, directly cooled down. Even the lava pillars were instantly brittle and shattered on the spot. Not only that, but the huge wave of frost that was pressed back even rushed out of the ground and completely froze one of Gross's legs. "Demon, let me, Hodier, have some fun with you." The 10-story tall guardian stood in front of the 5-story tall Gross. It's a little like the big bullying the small. On the other side, the Fiend Tribunal group launched a surprise attack. They were aiming at Freya, who was standing a little outside. Jaden had long expected that the mortal army would invade the tomb of Sargeras, so he summoned his best hunters, Audiobook and Balak, to surround the invaders and prevent them from using the Pillar of Creation to go deeper into the underground city. Unfortunately, if they were used against mortal experts, they would be quite powerful. But his opponent was Freya, so it was not enough. The moment Hodor counterattacked Groth, the demon duo's giant scythe sliced through the nature guardian's neck, and a gust of demonic wind blasted Freya's body. It seemed that Freya was in a miserable state. If she was a mortal expert, she might have been defeated by this combined attack. At the same time, Freya nonchalantly stabbed the defenseless Audiobook in the chest with a karate chop. Under the shocked gazes of all the demons. A vast expanse of green. The green light representing nature exploded on the demon lord's chest, and a large amount of smelly flesh and blood slowly fell from the air. They were too anxious. If they first got rid of the bunch of ancient trees, thorny flowers, and human-shaped plants behind Freya's health recovery ability would be greatly reduced. Directly attack? Sorry, Freya was invincible in this state. The third and fourth bosses of the Tomb of Sargeras were the Naga thug Hayatan and the Moon Sisters respectively. As a Naga, nothing could stop the charm of Vashj, who was already a demigod. Vashj had long become a martial artist, and she was a mess. Except for the former High Elf Queen Azhara who was in hiding, no Naga expert could stand in front of Vashj and speak. So Hayatan had already surrendered long ago, and was now in the coalition army. As for the Moon Sisters, the first thing to explain was that the Tomb of Sargeras was originally the Moon Goddess Temple. As they went deeper into the tomb, the scene everywhere showed its elven style. The quaint walls were covered in cobwebs, and the color was completely different from the black and green of the entrance hall. However, over the long years, the dark power that Egwene had sealed under the tomb had gradually affected this place. Before Sargeras's incarnation was buried under the Moon Goddess Temple, the Moon Sisters had long become the temple's guards. Even after death, they were still loyal to their duty. But in these thousands of years, something had distorted their ability to distinguish between friend and foe. Madness slowly engulfed them. Now, anyone who entered this temple would be executed by them. Unfortunately, only Duque was so extravagant, and had long gotten a token from Elune. Well, when the current high priest, Chandris, lifted her robe and appeared with the divine object that Elune had bestowed upon her, the Moon Sisters immediately became loyal subjects. This scene made him so angry that he stomped his feet. Unfortunately, whether it was the leader of the Burning Legion or the guardians of the coalition army, they were all bloody bulls. Compared to the guardians that were 10 stories tall, most of the space in the Tomb of Sargeras was narrow. This meant that there wasn't much space for the guardians to gang up on. A few mortal powerhouses were left behind to help, and the main force continued to descend. The fifth was Saslan. As Matriarch Shivala, who was the least likely to jump to the side of the loyal subjects, a tough battle was inevitable. According to what Daddy Blizzard had said, Matriarch Saslan's introduction was that she devoted her life to using her dark will to bind marine creatures. Relying on this power, she summoned terrifying nightmares from the depths of the sea that could drown all enemies who dared to challenge her. Sounds awesome, doesn't it? To put it bluntly, it could be described in one sentence: the other party didn't want to talk to you, so she threw a murloc at you. Elite murlocs with HP comparable to mini-bosses would stick to someone like sticky candy and harass them in all kinds of ways once they jumped on them. Under normal circumstances, Saslan had to rely on her own skills to solve the problem. In addition, there were annoying giant squids, fat fish, jellyfish, and a bunch of other marine creatures. But this time, Saslan's opponent was Torim, the Thunder Guardian. Towards these inconspicuous little guys, Torim's entire body was filled with lightning. No matter what they were, he wouldn't even think about it. He would raise his hand and strike their whole family, turning all the seafood into a family bucket of lightning. As expected of a grandpa. He directly activated the thunderstorm, shrouding the entire shallow and deep waters in a thunderstorm composed of thousands of lightning snakes. After a few rounds, Matriarch Saslan screamed and was hit by Torim's thunder sledgehammer. Black smoke rose from her body, and she lay dead on the spot. Chapter 2045. There were only two leader monsters left in Sargeras' tomb, the Guard Maid, and the Amalgamation. The Guard Maid was ordered by Aegwin to guard the tomb of Sargeras. She had been guarding it for hundreds of years. But the Guardian did not expect the evil power leaking out of the Avatar to affect the Titan structure. It was slowly distorted by this evil power. Sargeras' tomb was once the sacred graveyard of the Night Elves, but the Burning Legion had distorted it with the Soul Engine. This evil machine extracted the energy of the dead and twisted them into monsters. If these two bosses were to deal with mortal powerhouses, they might be able to make do, but against the ferocious main force of the Guardians, they were completely insufficient. Not to mention, there was a group of Alliance heroes who were not demigods, but stronger than demigods. Even if they deliberately used magic cloaks to hide their aura and energy waves, Jaden could be sure that these guys with divine artifacts, even if they had not officially stepped into the divine realm, could exert combat power no weaker than a low-level demigod. Talagu Gonmota. At the bottom of the tomb of Sargeras, Jaden cursed. Anyway, when translated in Eridar, it was nothing more than F***ck, F***ck, F***ck. The wrong assessment of strength put Jaden in a passive position. The first few boss monsters were basically beaten up by the Guardians of Azeroth. Jaden had no choice but to activate the large ambush that he had originally planned to wait for Duque to appear. Anger burned in his heart, and he was angry that he had to play his trump card in advance. He knew that as a demigod of the Weave, Duque's spatial magic was quite outstanding. If not, he would not have asked this guy to be in charge of the Burning Legion's portal to Azeroth back then. He had wanted to wait for Duque to enter deeper into the tomb of Sargeras, such as when he was fighting hard, and then ambush him. But his little brother was not good enough. If he let the Guardians go deeper, it would seriously hinder Lord Sargeras' resurrection plan. Jaden waved his claws and ordered, "No more waiting. Attack, hold them off for me. I'm going to use the third plan." For Jaden, who was used to tricking people, it was a shame to have to use the third plan. Back then, he had swindled Zul to the point where his entire clan was almost wiped out. Even his body had been smashed to pieces, and he still had to continue working for the army for free. But now, both plans had failed. The first was to trick Duque, which was the most ideal. The second was to take out Illidan from the main Azeroth timeline and use his body, which had been injected with Sargeras' energy and backup, as a resurrection material. Unfortunately, neither of them would work. The third option was a little weak. Jaden raised his hand and a space-time door from another timeline opened. The two powerful Void Lords personally carried out another corpse of Illidan. Damn it! This was not the main timeline. This guy was too weak. If the Great Lord Sargeras wanted to use this to resurrect, he would have to expend a lot of energy and energy. Jaden cursed. The flames that lingered around his huge body made the experts in the army feel that the heat was unbearable, and there was a terrifying sense of suffocation. None of the Void Lords dared to approach him. Not to mention ordinary low-level demons, if they came into contact with that little spark, it would quickly spread to their entire body, burning them alive along with their soul. Let's begin. No one dared to provoke kill Jaden. A group of Eridar warlocks quickly began the ceremony. At the same time, in the tomb of Sargeras, the allied forces were still advancing steadily. As the Guardians killed the demons or distorted beings who worked for the Burning Legion, a large number of Vagli and Titan creations poured in. With their burly bodies, they filled the entire upper half of the tomb of Sargeras. There was a sentry every 3 steps. Not only that, there were also 2 Nara members directly entered here under the cover of the Drenii and Titan creations. Under the guidance of the priests of the Elun Sisterhood, they cooperated with the power of Elun and used holy light to purify the evil energy in the tomb. At the forefront of the tomb, the demigod duo of the Kiraj twin emperors and a group of newly promoted bug leaders were opening the way. Most of the demons along the way were destroyed by the bugs. After the sizable elite bugs fought off the demon troops, there were follow-up bug workers to clean up the corpses. By the time the main force arrived, there would be only dirty demon blood left on the road, and there wouldn't be many broken limbs left. Basically, the corpses would be stuffed into various branches or small caves. Come on. It's none of our business. It's as easy as going on an outing. Gavin Rad carried the new wind sword made from the remnant soul of orc trash and swaggered along the flank of the team. Carelessness will cost you your life. Theon said in a deep voice. The enemy can attack from any angle, such as the ceiling or the floor. Wiping out this place will be an arduous battle. We'll be tense from start to finish, and we'll quickly tire out, Sidan Dathrahan teased. Don't you and Turalian have our full attention now? That's enough. Turayan was a little annoyed. It had been decades. How could the old brothers of the 4 Silver Sages not know the roots of their own people? Looking around, this lineup was simply magnificent to the point of explosion. On the left was the demigod bear monster Yusak and the User brothers, on the right was the wolf god Goldring and the thunder guardian Torim, who had already dealt with his opponent, on the rear was the tortoise god Tortola, and in the sky was the raven god Avienna. In the middle, apart from the Alliance heroes, there was also the guardian chief Odin. His huge body was like a small mountain. Of course, there would be no chance for him to attack. Occasionally, a demon would break through the vanguard of the swarm, but it would be easily taken care of by the circular formation of over 1,000 Vagli. These pitiful souls that had been transformed by souls were undoubtedly powerful in battle. It was just that looking at their holy wings that emitted white light felt a little ironic. Suddenly, the magic transmission of the troops at the front was severely disrupted. Enemy, attack. Vek Lor's voice sounded very anxious. Enemy attack. Everyone here is an enemy. Odin was indifferent. Odin was arrogant, and he had the right to be arrogant. The other Alliance heroes would not take this message so lightly. Ever since the demon emperor Vek Lor had pledged his allegiance to Duke, he had been cautious and conscientious. Even if he was killed once, he and his brother were still very reliable after being resurrected. As an old subsidiary race of the Alliance leaders were very clear about the battle prowess of the Kiraji insect people. Something that could make Vek Lor jump had to be quite troublesome, or an enemy that was beyond the Twin Emperor's ability to deal with. Level 1 Combat Readiness. William had just shouted when 7 or 8 huge black shadows had already whizzed over, almost in a row. They charged out of the darkness and broke through Vagli's line of defense in an instant. Chapter 2046. Kazakh? Someone in the Alliance immediately recognized the huge demon that was charging at the front. It's him. It's not him either. His soul is very mottled, and it's almost not his original body. He's probably become another existence after some kind of enhancement, Thrall shouted. The former chief of the tribe, and now a shaman master belonging to the Alliance, Thrall's attainments in the field of souls could be said to be at the peak. His words were authoritative in this regard. Everyone immediately understood. Kazakh was already an old enemy of the Azeroth people. According to the original history, he would appear at the time of the King of Draenor, as Overlord Kazakh. In this life, from the inexplicable appearance of Karazhanli to the Battle of Mount Hyjal, Kazakh had appeared twice in total. Of course, Duque would not forget Kazakh. After all, without the entire time of the King of Draenor, the enemy that appeared inside was likely to be delayed until now. Duque guessed correctly. Everyone immediately matched this guy with the information that they had received in advance. According to the plan, attack. Magni Bronzebeard's body suddenly swelled up like a gust of wind, and in 3 seconds, he turned from a tiny crystal man into a Terminator-level giant that was 10 stories tall. He waved the Balrog hammer, which also grew in size, fearlessly facing off against the boss of the Apocalypse Guards. It wasn't just him. A tall and thin figure in the crowd suddenly tore off his robe, revealing a handsome face and a head of brilliant blonde hair. Kael, that's Eversong, the former elf prince, now fought as the demigod of the fire element of the Azeroth. Suddenly, his body burst into flames, and he and his phoenix, Ao, merged into one. The image of the flaming phoenix behind him opened up with a whoosh, and let out a clear cry. He and Magni combined the power of 2 demigods and launched a frenzied attack against Overlord Kazakh. However, their combination would soon be forced to separate. More Burning Legion Void Dukes arrived. King Galaxus, Prince Malchezer, Eternal Secressa, Tyrant Vihari, and Queen Kalitris of the Eridar race. The Dreadlords faction consisted of Kasranatar, Seisovar the Corruptor, Modophalos, and Maleficus. Shivara, Mother Harith, Mavorans. The representatives of the Dread Guardians were Aomer the Scarless and Ambassador Helmer. The Darksider Lord, General Sarkar, Bitug. Many of these evil sect leaders had been beaten up by the Alliance and even killed. However, after their souls returned to the Twisting Nether, they were resurrected and appeared before the Azeroth Coalition army in a brand new state. Perhaps some of them had already lost most of their souls when they were killed. So what? The Burning Legion was famous for their inhumanity. What Kill Jaden needed was their combat power, so he mixed them with the souls of many low-level Void Dukes. His mottled soul caused his spellcasting ability to be greatly reduced. It didn't matter as long as they could still use their powerful bodies to fight. The Tomb of Sargeras, which wasn't spacious to begin with, became extremely chaotic after so many big guys squeezed in. It was almost impossible for mortals to find what could be called a safe foothold. A second ago, that place might have just been trampled by Odin's big foot. The next second, it might be the great demon's goat hooves trampling over it. That kind of chaotic battle was like a pot of porridge. Fortunately, the heroes of the Alliance had long since adapted to this kind of chaotic battle. Even if they were scattered for a while, they could use various class skills to find a way to gather together with their companions. Originally, if it was just these Void Dukes, the other Titan creations and Vargris could come to help. Unfortunately, they also had their own enemies that they had to deal with. Countless elite demons flew under the not-so-high dome of Sargeras' tomb. 1 row, 2 rows, 3 rows. These demons formed a formation and penetrated the darkness, trying to break through the Vargris formation and occupy the top of the Alliance army. The Vargris, who could fly, were not to be outdone. They almost immediately launched tactical maneuvers in mid-air. While dodging the rain of shadow arrows and fireballs, they attacked the demons with white and gold light beams of holy power. Even though they tried their best to intercept them, many flying demons still swooped down and attacked the Alliance heroes below. There were too many demons. Archers like Hadgeron Brightwing and Chandri's Feathermoon couldn't shoot all of them. For a moment, Chandri's wanted to use a big move. Unfortunately, using the debris of the stars against these elite demons was a little too wasteful. In this underground tomb that was shrouded by Sargeras' evil power, Alun's power was greatly weakened, and she could barely borrow it. It could be said that the power of the moon goddess decreased with each use. Chandrese gritted her teeth and continued shooting. Malfurion raised his oak staff. He raised his head and waved his hand. A spherical wall made of vines immediately appeared above the heads of the mortal heroes. Then, he pushed forward again, and the wall of vines immediately extended forward. The swooping demons had no time to dodge, and they directly crashed into the wall. There was no continuous sound of hard objects colliding. Instead, it was like a spider web catching flying insects. Ugly figures wrapped in evil power were stopped, and thin vines pierced into the bodies of these demons. Soon, after a few convulsions, these demons kicked the bucket. Even with Malfurion's vine shield and Alonso's Fail's wide area holy light shield, everyone still felt like there was a rain of demons above their heads. Countless demon limbs and flesh fell with a pitter-patter, and the ground was covered with a layer of stinky stuff. It seemed like the Alliance army was on the verge of collapse, but with the Logia powerhouses supporting them, they could wear them down. Especially after the Guardian of Life, Freya, returned, they were as firm as a rock. No matter how the demon army attacked, the Alliance army didn't move. There were so many demon corpses that they blocked their own path forward. This caused the Burning Legion to start a frenzy of fire. It wasn't just in the tomb. Around the tomb of Sargeras, more than 100 large and small portals with a diameter of 2 to 30 meters opened in one go. From the smallest imps and hellhounds to the larger hellfires and fell reavers, they all rushed out to counterattack the Alliance army's position. Fierce battles broke out both inside and outside the tomb. However, Kill Jaden was still unhappy. He suddenly realized that something was wrong. Many female heroes were missing from the Alliance army. To be precise, none of the women around Duque were around. Chapter 2047. This was definitely not normal. If it was an ordinary woman, she would leave her at home, in a safe place, and even hire the best guards in the city to protect her family. That was the right way to go. Just like Varian. Although he fought fiercely, he would never bring his queen to the front lines. Duque was different. The women Duque could count were all from the Alliance's hero squad. Even Kalia, who was known to be weak in combat, was an archbishop. Elucia also had the identity of a radiant moon mage. Queen Sylvie was a demigod, and Jaina was stuck at breaking dawn. She was actually waiting for Duque to advance before following him. Even Duque's rumored ambiguous relationships, Vashj, Isra, and Onyxia, were all demigods. And then there were the professions, main tanks like hoofed paladins and black dragon warriors, damage dealers like mages and rangers, and healers like priests and priests. Duque's harem was enough to start a hero squad. The world's best fighting family, was how the entire alliance described Duque's family. Duque's family had also become the core of the alliance's hero squad. But now, none of Duque's women could be seen. Duque's plan had obviously worked. He had concealed it very well. At first, the alliance's formation was full of guardians and god of the wilderness. In addition to the densely packed Wagri and zombified Zergs, as well as the guys in charge of covering for them, they were all in godly equipment. Just by looking and sensing from afar, it was impossible to know how many Alliance heroes there were in the Alliance. The Burning Legion could only use this kind of all-out attack, relying on the high-tier Void Lords who could fight to break through the Alliance's formation, and drag the situation into a chaotic battle. Only then could they see the full strength of the Alliance. The Alliance was definitely not weak, but Duque, whom Kill Jaden valued the most, and Duque's women, were all absent. This made Kill Jaden feel that something bad was about to happen. What could be more important than stopping Sargeras from reviving on planet Azeroth? Kill Jaden couldn't think of anything at first. Normally speaking, it was impossible for any existence or force to be a match for the Burning Legion. Even the Pantheon couldn't do it, let alone in this battle. The Pantheon had only sent out a group of Guardians and Titan creations. In the past few years, the number of Guardians that the army had destroyed was at least in the 5 digits, and the number of Titan creations was in the hundreds of millions. Then why didn't Duque come? Suddenly, Kil'jaeden thought of a frightening possibility. This thought was like a poisonous weed, like a crazily growing vine, growing wildly in his vicious and fiery heart. Kil'jaeden couldn't hold it in any longer. He gave up on supervising Wizard Eridar's resurrection ceremony and charged forward on his own. He rushed out from the deepest part of Sargera's tomb and joined the battle. Be careful. It's Kil'jaeden himself. The appearance of the egg was easy to recognize. There weren't many red-skinned demons as large as him to begin with, and with the ultra-high temperature surrounding his body, even gods and demons feared him. Regardless of whether it was his own people or the allied forces, most of them avoided him until he met a giant with a body that was practically a standard muscular man. The first thing that came into view was the fiery red flame beard. This big beard was like a bright lamp. Even if a demon accidentally bumped into it, he would be burned to death by the high temperature of the beard. The square-shaped armor was dark gold in color, but in fact, this armor was more of an ornament. This giant only had a pair of freaking wrist guards, a pair of leg guards, an umbrella-shaped belt, and a winged helmet on his body. There was no armor on the rest of his body, and the bulging and clear outline of his muscles was exposed to the air just like that. However, even though his upper body was bare and he was dressed in a pair of red Spartan underpants, the bluish-green muscles on his body were not real flesh and blood. This was made up of super-hard Titan composite material. It had super hardness and toughness, and could also change shape at will when needed. He was Odin. As the chief guardian, after being personally strengthened by the Titans of the Pantheon, Odin became even more ferocious. Seeing such a small egg, Kil'jaeden, rushing towards him, Odin immediately used the Spear of Light. The huge golden spear that was longer than a football field was even more visually shocking in this space that was not too spacious for the giant guardian. In the next second, Odin exhaled and shouted. The muscles all over his body that were stretched to the extreme seemed to turn into a rubber band that was stretched to the extreme, and he threw the spear out in an instant. Kil'jaeden raised his hand and raised a ball of flames that clashed with the Spear of Light. Unfortunately, the hellfire that was condensed in a hurry was pierced through by the spear head that was blooming with light, and Kil'jaeden suffered a fierce blow on the spot. Kil'jaeden, who refused to admit defeat, returned the favor on the spot, and a dazzling blue halo suddenly appeared under Odin's feet. In less than half a second, the halo exploded with a loud bang, and its powerful shadow energy caused even Odin, a 10-story giant, to stagger and fall forward. This was the egg's killer move, Fragmentation Singularity. Both of them suffered a fierce blow, but for both of their extraordinary physiques, it did not hurt. It did not itch. At their level, the traditional sense of Achilles' heel no longer existed. Of course, there was no dodging or anything like that. Two large humanoid creatures with powerful energy competed in each other's defense, vitality, and the ability to cause damage to the enemy. The shadow magic of chicken and egg was powerful. Odin's power of light was also very powerful. Kil'jaeden seemed to realize that Odin was not an opponent that he could kill in an instant, and he also calmed down from his anger. When a high-grade Void Lord helped him withstand Odin's fierce slash, he launched a huge trap-type magic. It was a large-scale spatial transfer. The members of the entire front of the coalition army, including Odin and Thorim, the Kiraji twin emperors, and more than 10 alliance heroes, including Tyrion and Gavin Rad, were involved. When they came back to their senses, they found that they were already on a huge, square-like platform, surrounded by the void. Countless streams of light that resembled falling stars, as well as the radiance of energy flashed around the platform. Thorim immediately warned, "Be careful. This is the gap between time and space. Don't fall, or you mortals will die. Kill. Jaden ignored the reactions of the other mortals and the Titan Guardians. He went straight to Odin, who should have the highest status, and asked, "Where is that little bastard Duke Marcus? Where is he? Why didn't he come?" He was indeed worthy of being called the most perceptive demon. He saw a lot of things from the fact that Odin had fought him head-on just now, but no one had covered or supported Odin. Chapter 2048. It was not that he did not come because he trusted Odin, but because there was a clear lack of connection. Odin was ferocious, and it was obvious that he was not on the same side as the other guardians and mortal heroes. Unexpectedly, when even Thorim was about to scream, Odin suddenly smiled and said, "Guess?" Wow! This move shocked the Alliance army so much that their eyeballs fell to the ground. Looking at the shocked expressions on the faces of his former colleagues and the mortals he looked down on, Odin suddenly became smug. "Don't forget. No matter what, I am the most loyal servant of the Pantheon. Since this is something that the great Amon-Sur approves of, I will do my best to carry it out." The Titan Guardian did not have any kind of explosive operation. The Titans had given these Guardians the trait of absolute obedience, which meant that they would not be surprised. They would unleash as much power as they had. This characteristic of being as steady as an old dog was the common trait of the Titans. Chicken and Eggs was stunned for a moment, and then he became angry. Even though he had already confirmed from Odin's words that Duque was indeed not here, the uneasiness in his heart grew stronger. In his heart, he screamed, "Impossible. They must not have thought of this. Even if they really did do it, they did not have the conditions. Moreover, there was that person in charge. There was no way they would have a chance." Jaden's heart was in a mess, and he kept releasing his ultimate moves. The ultimate move that covered the entire field, Armageddon. The Fracture Singularity, that could send the Titan Guardians flying. And the Bursting Flames of Fear, that could cause a team to be wiped out. All kinds of powerful Eridar tactics were thrown out one after another. But the more ferocious he was, the more it proved the anger in his heart. This was already the third time. The first time was in the Ancient War, where he was tricked by Duque's infernal affairs. The second time was in the Battle of the Sunwell, where he was directly caught in the big toilet bowl of the portal, and his upper body was blown up. The third time was this time. He had been tricked by a mortal and miscalculated 3 times in a row. This was enough to completely ruin his reputation as the Master of Arcane Arts and King of Conspiracies. You think too much. Do you pitiful worms really think that you can deal with the endless demon army with your pitiful tricks? Jaden's angry roar resounded throughout the void battlefield. No answer. No, perhaps the answer of the Allied army's powerhouses was that silent sneer and contemptuous look. Everyone believed in Duque. Even Odin, who was at loggerheads with Duque, believed in Duque's Amon-Thul. It sounded a bit tongue-twisting, but it was actually true. Without the restrictions of the Pantheon, Odin might really become a useless teammate in the Alliance army. But no matter how unhappy Odin was with the mortals and his colleagues, his loyalty to the Pantheon was absolute. It was this absolute loyalty that pushed him to make a move that perfectly matched the Alliance army. Since he couldn't split his opponent, the only thing he could do was to face him head-on. At that moment, Jaden hated Archimonde, the other leader of Eridar that he once looked down on. If Archimonde was still alive, and his skeleton was not placed in a museum on Mount Hyjal, perhaps everything would be different. If he was up against a group of Alliance powerhouses with ordinary human bodies, his size would definitely have an advantage. After entering this special space, his body swelled to the height of a 7-story building. Unfortunately, he was up against Odin and Thorim, who were 10 stories tall. Facing these 2 Titan Guardians who had become extremely cooperative, Kill, Jaden found that his vitality was weakening very quickly. And because of their attributes, these two fellows were quite effective against him. One mainly used holy attacks, coupled with lightning, and the other was pure lightning. The two fierce guardians were already hard to deal with. If Kill, Jaden calmed down and made full use of his home advantage, it was not impossible for him to kill these two fellows. But after adding the other demigods and mortal heroes into the mix, Kill, Jaden was very annoyed. Theon's, Ashbringer, and Gavinrad's new artifact, Wind Elemental King, Al-Akir's Wrath, were a perfect match for the two guardians. What was even more disgusting was the Kiraj twin emperors. After realizing that they could not cooperate with the two guardians, the twin emperors simply retreated to the side and did nothing but fight Kill, Jaden's reinforcements. This was not a void that was completely cut off from the outside world. This was just a special space rift that Kill, Jaden had developed. It was used by him to divide the Alliance powerhouses. From the beginning to the end, he had never thought of separating himself. On this huge void platform that was the size of 4 football fields, there was actually a portal that was specially used to teleport void lords over to help. The twin emperors were guarding the door as door gods. If it was Kill, Jaden dealing with the twin emperors, it would be a piece of cake, but ordinary high-level void lords were really no match for these two brothers. If you were good at physical attacks, let the demon emperor, who was immune to physical attacks, fight you. If your magic was good, let the sword emperor fight you head-on. Anyway, they would just guard the portal and not let you big void lords come in. The twin emperors didn't care about the smaller demons and left them to the Alliance heroes. Interestingly, on the Alliance's side, Malfurion, the powerful healer, also came in at that time. Under full force, the decline of Odin's and Turim's vitality was really greatly slowed down. Kill, Jaden was anxious because he knew that the Void Lords outside were really not enough for the remaining Alliance powerhouses to kill. As long as the Alliance didn't make mistakes and didn't advance rashly, the Void Lords were more like vegetables. Hey! Is it really okay if we don't advance? If we delay any longer, Sargeras will be resurrected, right? Saidan waved the hammer of holy light and smashed the head of an apocalypse guard into a rotten watermelon. Turayan, who was next to her, waved the Quell Zerum, inherited from Anduin Lothar, and easily chopped a Shivala lord, and suddenly said, "First of all, we have to believe in Duque. Secondly, I think Duque should have reached some secret agreement with the Pantheon, such as a surprise attack." Saidan wasn't a kid who had never led an army before, and he immediately understood the ultimate plan. If Duque didn't come to the front line, the only possibility was that he went to steal their nest. They went to the Twisted Nether? Saidan lowered his voice. Turayan casually chopped another demon and suddenly laughed. I guess Kill, Jaden also discovered it. Then it doesn't matter if I say it. Although Duque is secretive, his destination isn't hard to guess. There's a 99% chance it's Argus. Why Argus? Saidan was stunned. This has to start from someone blowing up the largest fortress in the Twisted Nether. Turayan was overjoyed and felt that there might be a demon tail wagging on his butt. Chapter 2049. Why Argus? That was a good question. Even Duque himself did not know why the Burning Legion's Achilles' heel was on Argus, the planet where the Eritas originated. Unexpectedly, in that secret meeting, it was the Titans who unwittingly told Duque the answer. That was because a certain despicable and shameless Void Duke, the biggest traitor of the Burning Legion in the past 25,000 years, had used the energy recoil from the Well of Eternity to blow up the largest fortress in the distorted void. This had shocked the entire Burning Legion and enraged Sargeras for 10,000 years. It had caused the entire Burning Legion to come to a consensus: the seemingly unsolvable Twisting Nether was not that safe. Since Duque could set off the biggest fireworks in the history of the Twisting Nether in the Ancient War, annihilating billions of demons, if Duque could do it once, he could do it again. So, even though the explosion in the ancient war did not really hurt Sargeras, kill Jaden, and the three Archimonde powerhouses, it made the three of them feel like they were sitting on pins and needles. After a long discussion, they made an unexpected but reasonable decision, to transfer the soul cores of the three of them and all the Void Dukes under the Legion to Argus. This was because there were two titans guarding Argus. The Avenger, Agrima, was once one of the noble titans of the Pantheon. After being defeated by Sargeras, he was reborn as a titan of destruction by Sargeras' evil power. He was now entrenched in the core of Argus, guarding the power that could destroy the universe, and the soul cores of the three burning Legion powerhouses. The other one was the Nirvanic Argus. That's right, this guy was the planet Argus, a titan born from the planet's soul. Unfortunately, from the day his soul awakened, he was destined to go astray. When Sargeras bewitched the two Irida's powerhouses, he had his eyes on Argus' soul. Because this soul had the power to become a titan. With the constant infusion of dark energy, Argus the Terminator had become a fallen titan around the time of the ancient war. The two fallen titans, Agrima and Argus, were the Burning Legion's ultimate secret weapons. If they didn't take advantage of Sargeras' resurrection in Azeroth, Archimonde hadn't resurrected yet, and Kill Jaden was personally at the front lines, they could take down two fallen titans in one go and destroy the Burning Legion's undying legend. Then, no matter how long they resisted, and how many times they repeated similar battles, the Burning Legion would still not lose in the end. At this moment, more than a light year away from the Azeroth, a spaceship beyond the imagination of mortals was warping through space. This kind of space-folding technology that ignored distance and reached the destination in a way that was almost like cheating was a black technology that even Duque's Earth hadn't developed yet. In the Pantheon Temple, this kind of technology was common. Outside the porthole, there were countless flashes of light. Inside the flying shuttle, there was a slight tremor. Sitting on the captain's throne, Duque looked around. The spaceship was huge. It was originally provided for the use of Titan creations, and the bridge alone was the size of 10 football fields. His eyes were filled with gorgeous Titan-style decorations, towering pillars, and Titan runes everywhere. And the guy driving the ship, it was Duque's old friend, the Observer, Orgarin. This giant Titan creation that seemed to be made up of constellations looked back from time to time, revealing a smile that could have been flattering. This guy probably knew that his fate was in Duque's hands. The captain's throne was so F***king big, it was originally meant for guardians or titans to sit on. The seat alone was 30 meters by 20 meters, and including the protruding corners, the total area was more than 650 square meters. It was even bigger than Duque's ducal mansion in Stormwind. Feeling the space flashing by outside the spaceship, Duque felt as if he was in a world of silence. But there was a voice in his heart that was becoming clearer and more certain: this was the last battle. Crossing over from Earth, becoming a part of the surging pulse of the river of Azeroth's fate, merging into the main timeline that gathered countless lives and time branches, combining the fate of countless existences and billions of voices of resistance, finally condensing into today's situation. As long as they won this last battle, all the suffering, all the threats would end. Perhaps the competition for survival resources among the various races meant that no matter which world it was, there would never be true peace. At the very least, there wouldn't be any terrifying evil forces like the Burning Legion that would crush a few planets at the drop of a hat. Was it excitement? Was it nervousness? Was it anticipation? Or was it just a desire for closure? Even Duque himself couldn't say for sure. Hot blood flowed in his divine body, it was the roar of the elements, and also the roar of his spirit and soul. But Duque's heart was extremely calm. Quietly watching the monotonous starlight passing by on the main screen, his gaze seemed to pass through the shackles of time. It was his honor to be able to join the world of Azeroth. Except for him, no one else on Earth knew that the game they loved was actually a projection in the mind of a game designer from another world. When the game designers, who were jokingly called Glass Scum, created the game World of Warcraft, they would never have imagined that there was such a world hidden behind their genius design concept. Duque was fortunate enough to witness the destruction of the old Stormwind city in flames. He saw the birth of a brand new alliance in flames and blood. Thanks to his prophetic ability, he changed the fates of countless masters and people. However, this great reversal of fate didn't come only from his gift. It was the struggle of all the people of Azeroth against the fate of destruction. Every hopeful person threw himself into the struggle and wrote a brand new epic with his blood and life. Heroes were born in troubled times. He thought back to the faces that should have died long ago, but were still alive and well because he had changed their fates. Suddenly, Duque felt a sense of satisfaction. Even if it was only in his own spiritual world, looking at them in his own memories and comparing their faces, he actually felt a strange feeling of being shocked by himself. In the game, all the regrets were made up. The current situation was more like the vision that all players, including himself, had hoped for in the past. Duque finally understood that he didn't come to this world alone. He was the embodiment of the best wishes of every World of Warcraft players. Chapter 2050. Thinking of this, Duque was in high spirits. Duque finally understood the meaning of his transmigration to this world. I've never thought of myself as a hero. I always felt that it was a little unreliable for someone who wasn't a hero to do heroic things. I didn't expect that. I've always admired heroes who have done great things, and I yearned to become a hero myself. Suddenly, he laughed bitterly and mocked himself. Ah, a guy like me actually has such a yearning in my heart. What is this? I was born ordinary, and when I see powerful beings, I unconsciously feel afraid and inferior. I didn't expect that it was me like this who had done such great things. It seems that humans are really a kind of limitless creature. The image of the beautiful blue planet that was gradually getting further and further away appeared in his mind. The corner of Duque's mouth curved into a bright smile. Thank you, Azeroth, for letting me live a beautiful life. In the future, I'll continue to rely on you. Even separated by thousands of mountains and rivers, in the endless void, in another part of the distant universe, Duque could still feel that there was a voice in his heart responding to him. The voice was full of affection. Child, I should be the one thanking you. That was the voice of Azeroth's astral soul. Suddenly, a familiar female voice rang in Duque's ear. She covered Azeroth's voice. Inferiority is the fear that mortals have towards the unknown. Heroism is a man's romance. What is there to be ashamed of? Duque, if it weren't for your self-awareness, self-discipline, self-improvement, and pride, do you think I would have taken a liking to a little human like you? Duque turned his head, and was surprised but not surprised to see a noble and proud female elf walking out from beside him. On her head was a golden crown in the shape of thorns, and her purplish-blue cloak seemed to have billions of lightning snakes wriggling inside, flickering non-stop. Her long hair shone like pure gold, and her blue eyes were like the purest sea water. The bowstring hanging diagonally in front of her chest was a stream of flowing wind, and the huge and gorgeous longbow faintly sounded with the sound of wind and thunder. Solidar, Wrath of the Stars. Perhaps now that divine artifacts were everywhere, it was no longer the most dazzling star. However, the meaning it contained, defeating the insufferably arrogant Burning Legion, had always encouraged everyone in the Alliance. The female elf patted his shoulder and smiled at him. What are you afraid of? I, Sylvanas Windrunner, will always be with you. Yo, my little sister, you can't steal all the limelight. A mature, elegant, and beautiful female elf walked up and stood side by side with Queen Sylvie. She was Aurelia, the first woman Duque met in Azeroth. Hey, me too. It was Sasha. what about me? Illusia asked. Following that, one beautiful female silhouette after another leaned over as if to join in the fun. Some of them were beautiful, some were flirtatious, some were gentle and virtuous, some were bold and decisive, some were pure and holy, and some were extremely exotic. Duque turned around and looked at Jaina, Kalia, Tyrant, Vashj, and Iriel. Other than Onyxia and Isra, who were dragon aspects and could not leave, everyone in his harem was here. Duque suddenly revealed a somewhat silly smile. Yo! You're so happy that it's all over your face. You're really shameless. Jaina rebuked Duque, which was rare. Hey! Which shameless disciple seduced his master? Duque teased. Humph. Which shameless impersonated a void lord and used shameless methods to occupy the night elf's high priestess? Tyrant put her hands on her hips confidently. It was as if she was blowing the horn, and a group of women surrounded Duque and attacked him. Who knew that Duque would ignore them all? Whoever rebuked him, he would respond with a smile. It was a drama with 3 women. With such a large group of beauties, if he really argued with every single one of them, then he would be really stupid. Anyway, no matter what they said, wouldn't they still be dealt with by Duque's godly sword? Duque's revenge, that night would be enough. Being stared at by Duque's naughty gaze, a few of the women felt goosebumps. Queen Sylvie put her hands on her hips and stood in front of a few girls who were being bullied by Duque's godly sword without daring to resist. Hey! Duque, we're talking business, what do you mean by that expression? Nothing. I'm just quite happy. Flags like returning home to get married after this battle are ineffective against me. There's a bunch of brats in my hometown now. Yes, Isra was still recovering, so the little brat at home was left to her to take care of. After becoming serious, Duque looked at his women with a gentle gaze. Do you remember all the important points? Got it, the 9 female voices said in unison. All right. We're almost there. Duque turned his head and looked at the demon hunter hero who was squatting in the corner and drawing circles. Oh, no, he was actually just a little unhappy. Illidan, what about you? Illidan was originally unhappy, but when he glanced at Tyrant beside Duque with his eyes made of evil flames, his stiff expression immediately softened. He replied in a low, muffled voice, I've been waiting for this day for 10,000 years. Sigh. The hatred of long-lived races was really scary. One grudge could be remembered for 10,000 years, and they would always be ready for revenge. Fortunately, Duque had Tyrant as a shield, so he was not afraid at all. Sigh. Even good men like Ronan and Turalian had found a home. Unfortunately, the Stormrage brothers were infatuated with love, and Duque could not possibly give up his own woman. This was basically an unsolvable deadlock. In fact, it was very easy for a love rival to get into trouble. To be honest, Duque originally did not intend to trust Illidan, but the world was strange. Ever since that bastard Illidan met Teresa, he had completely changed. He was no longer so gloomy and desperate, as if he had a new spiritual anchor. Thinking of this, Duque felt a little angry. Because Teresa Whisperwind was the daughter that Tyrant gave birth to for him 6 years ago. F***ck, why did I not know that Illidan had a Lulicon attribute? Now, this originally important son of light and shadow, not only did he not go to the tomb of Sargeras to fight with Kill Jaden, but he also followed this ship to Argus. Duque monitored that the bastard Illidan had opened the pendant on his neck a total of 108 times in this short period of time. Impressively, the 3D portrait of Duque's Teresa was in the pendant. If possible, Duque would rather stab Illidan to death immediately, so that the old man would not be thinking about his daughter. Unfortunately, that pendant was a gift from Tyrant, the relationship between Tyrant and the Stormrage brothers. Sigh. After all, Tyrant's body and mind belonged to Duque. The rest did not matter. Chapter 2051. Interstellar travel had never been an easy task, let alone to an unknown planet whose coordinates were unknown. That was how it was, with a local, a guide, and a mole, it would not be a problem. As the vibration of the folded flight that had been accompanying everyone slowly disappeared, the starlight on the monitor screen of the spaceship began to shorten. In the middle of the screen was a huge planet surrounded by green light. The planet itself was huge, but unfortunately, it did not have the characteristics of a planet with life. It was neither an ocean planet that was dominated by seawater, nor a terrestrial planet covered in forests, let alone the planet of Eden that was known as a paradise for life. It could even be said that Argus was like a sun, a star that could emit light and heat on its own, more like a planet with life. Traces of dark energy filled their eyes, and in their field of vision, a huge yellow-green scar almost split the entire planet in half. In the middle of the screen, there was a huge yellow dot that looked like a whirlpool, and the edge was all green dark energy. Looking at his hometown, Valen's heart ached at the changes here, but at the same time, he was filled with emotion. It's been 25,000 years. I never thought that I would return to Argus one day, although I don't even know if I'm a living person. Valen had kicked the bucket, but he was not completely dead. For the past decade, he had been coexisting with Orgrim in the Soul Box. Until Duque reached a cooperation agreement with the Pantheon, and as the best local, he was resurrected with the help of the Pantheon. It was hard to say that this was a true resurrection, because his body was half holy light creature, half metal. Just like the earth spirit who was cursed by the flesh and blood, and became a special half-earth elemental and half-living creature. Hoof comforted her teacher, Master, it's okay. As long as we win, we can get Argus back. By then, we can even ask the Pantheon for help to restore Argus. Duque, right? Hoof had now sold herself, and of course, she could only count on Duque. Duque smiled bitterly. Damn, that old thing Valen was a cunning one, and I couldn't help but want to help save another planet, but Duque still nodded. Don't worry, as long as we can really defeat the Burning Legion, Argus is nothing to the Pantheon. They won't want to see a planet that can constantly resurrect demons. With that said, Duque complained in his heart, if it weren't for the sake of the Alliance, based on the Pantheon's temperament of purification at the drop of a hat, they would probably blow up Argus directly. Even though Valen had confirmed it a long time ago, he still felt comforted when he heard the news from Duque. As for the landing spot, I suggest here, here, or here. Valen casually pointed at a few spots on Argus, which had changed beyond recognition. Then, two low female exclamations came from beside Duque. That's amazing. That is indeed the weakness of the army's defense. As expected of one of the three giants. The Eridar twins knelt down and prostrated themselves on the ground, praising Valen. He. Willen pretentiously stroked his three bushy mustaches. Even though the planet has undergone a great change, and 25,000 years have passed, there are some important places that can't be changed. For example, the location of the Antorus burning throne. That place itself leads to the core of the entire planet. Controlling that place is equivalent to controlling the entire planet. Duque smiled. It was no wonder that Kil'jaeden had been chasing after Willen for the past 25,000 years. Then, the Eridar twins had been added to the list of targets. I got the defensive map through the servants who still have no choice but to swear loyalty to us sisters, said Elisa's. Everyone, please take a look. This is the latest information before we start hyperdrive, Sailoras said. The twins raised their hands and displayed the defense map of the army on Argus on the huge three-dimensional planet. Duque didn't care about how the two of them made the servants loyal. He only cared about what he wanted, and he found it very quickly. At this time, the observer in charge of driving the ship, Orgarin, suddenly shouted, "Damn, the Burning Legion has expanded their alert range." They received the army's identification signal much earlier than expected. They want us to identify ourselves. At this moment, everyone looked at Illidan. This was the time to verify if the keystone his demon hunters had obtained was effective. Under everyone's gazes, Illidan took out a runestone. That was the ultimate treasure that his most loyal demon hunter had spent more than 20 years to obtain. It was also his biggest asset in this ultimate war. Humph. This is a keystone. It's both the galactic coordinates and the prototype of the entire Burning Legion's identification system. No changes can bypass it. The Eridar twins looked at this inconspicuous blue runestone, and their eyes lit up. Yes, the last time the army changed the communication system and password was during the Primordial War 10,000 years ago. That time, the traitor Duque appeared and blew up the Twisted Void Fortress, so they had no choice but to change it. Just changing the password and identification system alone took 100 years. There was no other way. Not only was the entire system complicated, but the army was too large. Tens of thousands of planet destroyers, millions of assault ships, and hundreds of millions of demons had to change the identification system. This huge project had taken countless MO/ARG engineers back then. This was the bitterness of being a demon. Dying of exhaustion, reviving, being forced to continue working by shaman, then dying of exhaustion, reviving again. On the other side, Illidan used his long fingers and black nails to hold the keystone and pressed it into the glowing, perfectly shaped groove on the bridge. On the other side, Queen Saloras used a little trick. What appeared in front of everyone was a very standard Eridar female warlock, but completely different from the original. On the screen, it was an Eridar male warlock. Hurry up and open the door. I'm so annoyed. I don't know if those clumsy guys have taken good care of my collection these days. If I find out that my vengeful spirit ensemble is missing a part tonight, I'll go crazy. Soon, the other side replied, "Hey. You're so lucky. You actually avoided trouble because you got lost." However, 3 frontline commanders in Azeroth have been killed. Now they're driving us crazy. Don't expect to have any more days off. What? My days off are gone. Bastard. Which idiot gave the order? Salora's acting skills were off the charts, and she looked like she was about to explode. The other side shrugged and looked as if he was also very desperate. It was General Kill Jaden who personally gave the order to transfer everyone. Saloras instantly looked dispirited. After a few more words of greeting, the huge green energy shield surrounding outer space opened a hole, and Duque's spaceship entered. Chapter 2052. They watched as the spaceship flew past 1,000 kilometers away from the space inspection station and entered the landing procedure. The inspector complained, "This ship looks really old. Is it a ship that was snatched from the war with the Drenii? 10,086. What does that mean?" Another Eridar wizard interrupted, "Who cares what he's doing, as long as he's back? Our superiors are going crazy over the lack of planet destroyers. Anyway, any ship that goes to Azeroth and gets hit by a planetary fortress is just a matter of one shot." That's true. I really don't know how the natives of Azeroth built an interstellar fortress. According to their primitive ideas, they probably can't even imagine it. Maybe it's the damn Pantheon's idea. As they chatted, they did not know what they had put in. On the other side of the spaceship, Queen Saloras humbly knelt down on one knee and continued to explain to everyone. There are too many demons in the Burning Legion. Even if there was no war, there would be Void Lords being defeated by other demons every day. There would also be new Void Lords being nurtured, or Demon Lords who succeeded in defeating the previous Void Lords, or Demon Lord alliances would instantly turn against each other and start a private war. So the composition of the forces under each Demon Lord is constantly changing. Elisa's continued, not to mention high-level commanders like Kill, Jaden. Even the elite demons at the squad leader level don't know how many demons they have under them. After all, sometimes when they die, they go back to the twisting nether to wait for resurrection, and they don't have time to report it. Or the squad leader doesn't know how to count. Saloras seamlessly continued, the only thing that is strictly monitored is the interstellar portals on Argus. This is because of Master's great cause 10,000 years ago. The Eridar twins had been calling Duque Master for so many years, and it had become very smooth. Everyone was still wary of them, but they always pretended not to see it and did things cautiously. Duque's gaze swept across them. He knew that at least before the Burning Legion was destroyed, they were more reliable. The spaceship began to break into the terrible green atmosphere of Argus. After 25,000 years, Argus was no longer the beautiful planet that Valen knew. Sargeras spared no effort in corrupting Argus with his dark energy, causing the atmosphere of the entire planet to become abnormal. The high concentration of evil energy in the atmosphere would kill an ordinary person on the spot. Their body would be lit up like a match, and even their soul would be incinerated, becoming part of the evil energy of the planet. Duque did not know how the people of Azeroth did it in the original spacetime trajectory of Azeroth. On his side, Willan secretly conjured a holy light shield to envelop the group of mortal experts. For Illidan, Eridar, and the Gemini twins who were demonized or were demons themselves, it was as comfortable as returning home. Alright, Duque, it's time for you to tell us what we're going to do next. Queen Sylvie was ready to go. She was like a fierce general who was about to charge into the enemy's formation. Ugh, we're going to do an Assassin's Creed sneak attack, Duque said casually. Assassin's Creed? If you want to do a sneak attack, why don't you call the professionals? Valera, Vanessa, Edwin, and the new legendary orc thief, Garona. You didn't bring any of the 4 thieves of the Alliance. What are you doing? Sensing everyone's gaze, Saloras protected her master. The place we're about to land belongs to an unpopular mid-tier Void Lord, Galast. He was destroyed in Azeroth 10 days ago, and his soul has just returned to the Twisted Nether. The defense of his territory is very lax. It's just some weak demon guards. The Gemini twins soon realized that their efforts were in vain. The spaceship landed, and as soon as the hatch opened, before the demons in the distance could surround them, Duque opened fire. Countless black, dark shadow hands, made of shadow energy floated in mid-air. They unscrupulously fired at any demons within a 3-kilometer radius, whether they were in the camp, hiding in the basement, or wandering in the wild. They killed every demon they saw. Bayou, 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 with ear-piercing noises, the smaller imps and hellhounds were blown into ashes, and the larger demon guards and doom guards were left with only half their bodies. In terms of level, the demons here were third-rate at best. More than 90% of them weren't even elites. In front of the ultra-pure Umbra energy, even the hellhound's natural high magic resistance was negligible. How could they possibly withstand Duque's attacks? As a demigod of Azeroth, nobody could switch to a shadow form and use the skills of an arcanist to bully the little kids among the demons. The experts of the coalition army were dumbfounded. Queen Sylvie lost her temper and asked angrily with her hands on her hips, "Didn't you say you were going to do an Assassin's Creed infiltration?" Duque said innocently, "In my hometown, the so-called Assassin's Creed is to kill all the enemies so that there are no witnesses. If this isn't a perfect infiltration, what is? After all, those useless people can't inform the upper echelons of the Burning Legion when they resurrect. Even if the Legion finds out that something is wrong here, they can slowly confirm the situation when they find out. I'm already done here." "Damn, you're so right. We can't even refute you." The girls were all embarrassed. In fact, it was exactly as Duque thought. The Legion did have a message from the monitors, saying that a large number of demons died in Galast. But a battle between demon lords or demons was just like how humans needed to eat and drink. It was too common. After confirming that those guys were killed by a rain of Umbra arrows, no one cared about it anymore. After all, in the hearts of most demons, the enemy was playing with the holy light. On the other hand, it was also because the Legion wouldn't spread the news that Duke played infernal affairs 10,000 years ago and tricked the Legion everywhere. Even when the Legion mentioned the big explosion in the distorted void, they would say that a certain high-level void lord who was killed in the explosion was conducting a forbidden experiment and blew up the fortress after it failed. No void overlord or above would dare to say that they had been tricked by a mortal powerhouse. Even the largest void fortress had been destroyed by a mortal powerhouse. The demon bosses who had been dominating for 15,000 years still had some face. They wanted face, so they naturally left a huge gap for Duque. Seeing that the main force of the demons around him had been killed, Illidan snapped his fingers, and his elite Illidari demon hunters immediately scattered. This group of nearly 500 demon hunters would transform into the cruelest hunters and hunt all the demons within a 100-kilometer radius. Chapter 2053. Duque ordered, Valen, keep an eye on the magical ley line beneath our feet. If we're attacked, I need you to turn an area 100 feet deep and half a mile in diameter into a land of holy light within 3 minutes. Valen nodded. No problem. Give me an hour. Duque looked at the towering mountain at the edge of the camp that was a full 200 meters tall. Sylvanas. An old couple, old partners. One call was enough to let Queen Sylvanas know what Duque was thinking. With a wave of her hand, the 3 Windrunner sisters and Tyrant flew to the mountain. They would set up a sniper position on the mountain. There was nothing they couldn't snipe within a 10-kilometer radius. Even though Argus had slightly different elemental laws, Queen Sylvanas easily set off with her sisters using Wind Riding spell, after adapting for a while. On the side, Hoof, Kalia, and Riadaline brought a Naru to the camp's main hall. They were going to use the Naru's holy light to prepare a pure place for everyone to rest. The small-scale purification was done quickly. With a wave of Duque's hand, all the demonic furniture and decorations in the hall were burned to ashes by the fire elements. With a snap of his fingers, countless hands of magic took out the storage from Duque's dimensional bag. There was a typical human-style red carpet, carved wooden seats, and even a large alliance flag that was 8 meters by 3 meters. The entire hall was decorated in Eridar style, and the inside was completely an alliance conference room. Everyone around him didn't know whether to laugh or cry at Duque's meticulousness. With everything ready, Duque felt comfortable. Let's begin. At this moment, all the elites of the Alliance who had followed the spaceship to Argus, be it the scattered demon hunters, the paladins of the Silver Hand, or the selected clergies, felt an inexplicable throb in the hearts of these Alliance professionals. One by one, they turned around and looked at the center of the camp. What they saw was a mysterious world of arcane magic. In the surrounding sky, the green evil visible to the naked eye was all frozen. The evil energy was like a frozen popsicle, motionless. There was neither the sound of wind or the chirping of insects. Countless blue and white Titan runes poured out from the huge magic circle in the hall, and the camp was covered in dazzling blue. Mysterious and quiet. The Titan runic magic circle seemed to expand endlessly, and soon, the entire campsite was within the range of the magic circle. The dazzling Titan runes dancing in the air caused more and more places to fall into silence. The wind no longer carried the manic roars of evil energy. This small world that was separated from the surrounding green world seemed to have calmed down. Once all the elements entered this area, they immediately and silently prostrated themselves. Duque stood in the center of the magic circle. Diagonally across from him, Jaina and Alicia stood in a triangular formation, chanting a spell along with Duque. Duque didn't need their help, but there was another special reason. But placing them at the eye of the magic circle was also a good training and improvement for them. The power of the Titan magic circle was further injected into the planet, and all the elements that were not directly controlled by the astral soul began to stir. They all gathered around Duque's campsite, tumbling and surging in the air, gathering more and more. At first, the elemental energy was like a small lake, but soon it became boundless, beyond the horizon. After the incantation lasted for half an hour, this place had already turned into a sea of mana. However, for Argus, which was 100 times the size of Earth, this power was still relatively weak compared to the fallen Titan Argus, which was born from the planet. It was not worth mentioning. Phew! Duque exhaled, and his breath was filled with the 4 major elements. We can start the next stage. According to the plan. We won't participate, we're just sensing from the side. Jaina and Wuxia nodded at the same time. Duque spread his hands and used the hand gestures to cast the spell. On the sea of magic, it was as if 12 bright moons had risen. Upon closer inspection, one would find that the so-called bright moons were just dim Titan magic circles. With the operation of the magic circle, the turbulent sea of magic began to lack waves, and in the end, there was not even a ripple. The 4 major elements were clearly not connected, but they were mixed together harmoniously. It was like a child's careless painting. Looking down from the sky, as long as one's vision was not blocked by the green clouds that acted as a cover, one would find that this place was completely different from the other areas of Argus. Duque's eyes widened. Jaina and Wuxia were surprised to see that Duque's previously clear pupils had changed. The 4 colors turned into 4 petals like a windmill, and slowly rotated clockwise in his pupils. The 4 colors, of course, represented the 4 major elements of earth, water, fire, and wind. At this moment, anyone with the slightest bit of elemental perception could feel that the laws of this land were deviating. The foul and destructive evil energy seemed to be frightened, and was quickly distancing itself from the area in fear. A new power, a new law was descending, and its irresistible power was dominating all elements, taking over everything on this land. Duque's voice sounded. It was not the kind of earth-shattering sound, but in the entire elemental domain, there was not a single elemental creature that could not hear Duque's announcement. It was a majestic, solemn, and irresistible voice. Fill it. Earth element. Fill it. Water element. Fill it. Fire element. Fill it. Wind element. The cycle repeats, followed by the 4 major elements. In the face of the 4 major elements that form the foundation of the world, I, the God of Elements, Duke Marcus, hereby declare, thou art at my command. My life is with thy sword. With the laws set by the Titans of the Pantheon as the blueprint. Command the Lord of Elements of the 4 realms. If you are willing to follow this will and this principle, then respond. I hereby vow, I am willing to do all the good in the world. I am willing to destroy all the evil in the world. Thou art the vanguard of conquering the elements of this world, answer my call. Duque gently lifted his left foot and stomped hard on the ground. A smaller portal suddenly appeared on the Titan matrix beneath his feet. The earth-yellow light occupied a quarter of the giant matrix. In that submatrix, there was a loud rumble of the earth, and a slightly fat, 100-meter-tall stone phantom slowly materialized within 10 seconds. The figure of Therazane, the mother of stone, suddenly appeared. As soon as she appeared, she knelt on one knee and sang loudly, Therazane, respond to the call of my lord. I am willing to serve my lord and conquer this distant planet. Chapter 2054. Unlike how it had been in history, the Holy Light Army had openly charged up to Fang Xingjian. Although they appeared heroic, they had also suffered great losses. None of the 4 elemental lords were fools. Especially after experiencing the war with the Titans during the Dark Empire of Azeroth, Neptulin and Therazane were even more aware of the Titan's strength. You've tasted too much of the Azeroth element and are probably numb to it. How does it feel to come to a new planet? Duque asked with a smile. The rest of Azeroth inevitably entered the bitter age of doom. Whether it was the depletion of elements, the lack of talent, or even the retrogression of technology, it had nothing to do with the Pantheon. Neptulin, respond to the call of the Lord. I will drown this planet full of evil flames with seawater in the name of the Master. Duque, the elemental god? Then, there were the other two elemental lords, the flame demon Smoldran and the former wind prince Thunderin. Duque flipped his wrists and raised his palms to the sky. Argus was too huge. Compared to the entire planet, 10,000 square kilometers of land might not even be considered as a hair follicle when compared to the human body. Unless there were too many bugs, causing the skin to rot and stimulating the nerves, then, are you excited? Happy? Fire could be a means, but it would not be the master. More than 9 million Russian soldiers and 17 million civilians died in World War II. Most of them were adult men. This directly led to the imbalance between men and women 70 years after the end of World War II. Only then did the four elemental lords stand up. Thunderin greets the Lord. May the cool breeze sweep away all filth for the Lord. The 400-meter-tall elemental lords knelt in 4 different directions toward the tiny Duque, who was less than 2 meters tall. Anyone who saw this scene would be shocked. The beautiful eyes of the harem ladies sparkled. They were proud of their men. Flame demon Smoldran, not bad. Of course, what Duque did was more than just stimulating the Lord. He did not just dig out the flesh of the burning legion. He simply pulled out the little hook that President Sa had hidden with the vagina shrinking spell and cut it off. Smoldran greets the Lord. I'm willing to share the burden of my master. 10,000 years ago, Sargeras did his best to build this place into the safest rear. Of course, he had to get rid of all unstable factors. When he discovered the primitive and uncontrollable instincts of the elemental creatures, he hated the elemental creatures here. There were countless mites and microscopic parasites on the surface of the human body, but the human body itself did not feel anything. The 4 elemental lords spread their arms, and countless elemental creatures were created on the spot. They were originally elements of Argus, and they were directly gathered by the lords and given the simplest sentience. In the next few days, Duque, Queen Sylvanas, and the other demigods felt that the Pantheon was spying on them many times. It was as if he was in the overly majestic temple of the Pantheon, with the virtual images of several titans standing on it, watching every move of Argus' advance army with a profound gaze. Therazane said happily, not bad. Duque pursed his lips and said nonchalantly, high profile? I don't think so. This level of elemental invasion is not even an itch for Argus, the Nirvanic destroyer. In any case, Duque, the tall boss, was holding the fort. It was not their turn to show up. Duque raised his right hand. Rise. My loyal servants. Next. Argus was larger than Azeroth, so the other 3 elements were more abundant than Azeroth. Neptulin was the only one who was left in a difficult situation. Most of the fire elemental creatures were transformed into hellfire, but the high-level elemental creatures were directly destroyed. This caused the whole of Argus to fall into a state of elemental vacuum without the rule of high-level elemental creatures. The 4 elemental lords of Azeroth all knelt outside, which was even more shocking. Although it was not the first time the people who followed them to the roof saw such a scene, they felt their hearts tremble every time they saw it. Regardless of whether they had fallen or not, the Titans were not existences that the elemental lords could challenge. Duque knew very well how dangerous a world war could be to a people, and even to the whole world. The Pantheon and Drenii were responsible for getting the spaceships, and they sent the elite Azeroth professionals to Argus. That kind of siege simply didn't treat elites as elites, they were just cannon fodder. The elemental creatures that were created instinctively followed in the footsteps of their creators, killing in all directions. The four elemental lords all let out strange, inhuman cries. The ancient elemental language expressed the most primitive excitement and excellence. Simple violence was effective, and it was what he was best at. Duque raised his right foot and stomped on the ground. This time, a quarter of the magic circle rotated at high speed. After a few seconds, a similarly burly, dark blue sea giant appeared out of thin air. He also knelt on one knee. Regardless of whether they won or lost, the Pantheon could just run away. With a thought from Duque, a large round hole appeared at the top of the hall. A throne made of fire, ice, and arcane elements slowly lifted Duque up to the roof of the building. 2 seconds later, a dazzling flame giant and an inverted triangular wind elemental creature appeared at the same time. Now, the entire Burning Legion was in the dark and did not know what was going on. Neptulin frowned. "I'm not feeling well." Even Jaina was sensitive enough to notice the change in Duque's prayer. She was also staring at Duque. There was not a single fire elemental creature among the higher-ups of the Legion. Duque smiled mysteriously and put his right index finger in front of his lips. It was a gesture for silence. Shoo. Not far away from Duque, Queen Sylvie, who was sitting in the air with her legs crossed and her body supported by the wind, teased, "Yo, you're really high profile." Although the Burning Legion was going to die, they still wanted to preserve as much of Azeroth's vitality as possible. Argus was basically a virgin land that had not been developed yet. That was why Duque used such a sneaky method. The four elemental lords showed different attitudes. Argus had been modified into the Burning Legion's fire domain. There was pitifully little water on the planet, and Neptulin was definitely the most uncomfortable one. Then what are you waiting for? Conquer. Take. Duque pointed into the distance where, Nirvanic, Argus was. Other than that place, everything else is your hunting ground. Go and take all the unclaimed elements for yourself. Walls and whatnot did not exist for the elemental lords. In their elemental vision, Duque's glorious figure could be seen clearly. Not bad, Thunderland rumbled. Chapter 2055. Duque sneaked over to Argus to raid the Burning Legion's home base, using the entire Azeroth as a feint. Whether it was the time or the situation of the battle, even the titans of the Pantheon were amazed by the speed of the attack. In the entire allied army, only the leaders of the alliance, the titans, or the demigods knew that Duque had left with his men. The allied army, even Marshal Taylor and the others didn't know that Duque had gone to raid. The Burning Legion was even more in the dark. In fact, when Duque had the four elemental lords take over Argus elemental authority, the allied army's powerhouses had only advanced to the third boss of Sargera's tomb. By the time Jaden realized that something was wrong, it was already too late. The chaotic nature of the Burning Legion made Argus look like it was heavily guarded, but in fact, after passing the external inspection, it was just a small matter. Initially, Duque had prepared for the worst, such as how he would forcefully land when the defense line outside the planet was discovered, or how he would be besieged after landing, and how he would defend while forcibly seizing Argus elemental authority. In the end, there was no use of any contingency plans. This was like winking at a blind person, but it was actually quite cool. Just like that, Duque corrupted himself in his temporary palace, camp, controlling everything, throwing the work to others or the elemental lords working below, and focused on monitoring the Burning Legion's messy affairs. When Duque confirmed that the Void Lords around him were all dirty and conflicted, True Mirror Image was activated. Today, he pretended to be an Eridar wizard to attack another faction, and an hour later, he pretended to be a demon to attack a third faction. In just 3 days, he easily turned Argus into a mess with the territories of the lords that spanned over 1,000,000 square kilometers around Antorus' burning throne. None of the Eridar higher-ups could find anything. Because the cause of the disputes was very simple: complaints. The attack on Azeroth was not going smoothly, and many long-existing conflicts began to erupt under the cloud of failure. A demon said that another demon was a coward, and another accused the other of holding them back. Whether it was cursing or blaming, to put it bluntly, it was a bunch of dogs barking at each other. This was because they were the first demons to die in Azeroth. After 10,000 years of adjustment, not all demons would roll into the twisting nether after death. After some high-ranking demons died, their souls would return to Argus. All sorts of fights, big and small, and even all-out wars between lords broke out. At first, it was not noticed by the higher-ups of the Burning Legion. The battle quickly spread like wildfire. By the time the demon lords who stayed behind realized that something was wrong, it was already a civil war. The Burning Legion's ruling structure was quite standard. It was a typical tree structure where one gave birth to two, two gave birth to four. Under Shaman were Archimonde and Kil'jaeden. When these two deputy commanders were not around, the power within the army fell into the hands of the matriarch of the Destruction Witch Guild. As the most depraved and fanatical followers of Sargeras, the witches bore an evil mission: to twist the fallen titans into the unstoppable pantheon of darkness. Every matriarch had her own signature torture method. The screams of the victims would ring through the halls of Antorus. It was said that neither mortals nor demons could resist their whispers. Therefore, it was only a matter of time before the titans collapsed. Their most successful example was, of course, helping Sargeras deal with Avenger, Agrima. This caused their status in the army to rise, and they were second only to the two deputy commanders. In the Witches' Guild, there were a total of 4 matriarchs. The first to speak was the Mother of Flames, Nora. She had red skin, 6 arms, and a 4-story tall body. Her body was always surrounded by circles of fire elements, and she always liked to carry 2 great swords that were more than 10 meters long. Are those bastards crazy? Hee hee. The green-skinned Mother of Shadows, Tima, chuckled. Anyway, it's just a bunch of trash causing trouble. If they want to fight, let them fight. Anyway, once you die in Argus, you can't be resurrected, so we don't have to worry. Idiot. Didn't you sense anything? Her skin was dark purple, and she wore a half-veil to hide her beautiful face that could charm thousands of demons. She was the mother of the night, Osala. I smell a rat. Finally, the bronze-skinned mother of the universe, Soraya, made the decision. Let the Antoran Commander Council bring Sargeras' evil dogs out to quell all the riots. Kill anyone who doesn't agree. At the same time, strengthen the defense of the Burning Throne. The Antoran Commander Council, back in the golden age of the Eridar civilization, this council was responsible for managing the defense of Argus and maintaining peace. After making a dark deal with Sargeras, these master tacticians used their military talents to organize the burning expedition and destroyed countless worlds. They controlled all the core power of the army. As long as there was an order, they would mercilessly use this terrifying power to destroy anyone who went against the will of the Dark Titans. It could be understood as the central army of the Burning Legion, while the Void Lords of other races led the local armies of their respective mountains. As for Falg and Shatug, who were infused with flames and shadows, they were Sargeras' precious pets. These evil dogs were born to kill and enjoyed destroying their master's enemies. As long as they appeared anywhere other than the Burning Throne, it would be no different from Sargeras' arrival. Matriarch Soraya was using her trump card. The cautiousness of the 4 matriarchs quickly paid off. They discovered a group of demon hunters attempting to infiltrate the Burning Throne. There weren't many, only 5. When they used the cruelest methods to interrogate them, they didn't get any useful information, although not every demon hunter could withstand soul interrogation. The ones who confessed only said that Illidan wanted them to go to the lowest level of the throne to find out about Agrima the Avenger. Why would that traitor Illidan want to find out about Agrima? How did he find out about Agrima? Where's Illidan? Isn't he in Azeroth? The series of questions put the matriarchs in a difficult position. They also lacked information. But this was what Duque wanted to do. These demon hunters weren't dead, but a different kind of feint to make the army leaders think that there was a thief, or some hidden enemy that wanted to attack the burning throne. For the sake of stability, the matriarchs made the decision to shrink the defense line. But they didn't think that it was necessary to kill Jaden, who was in the middle of an expedition, just a few demon hunters and thieves. No one would have thought that Duque's plan was actually outside the burning throne. On the morning of the 30th of September, year 36 of the Dark Portal, the entire planet Argus suddenly shook violently. Chapter 2056. Most of the elements and creatures on the planet were just extras to the planet itself. Like in the World of Warcraft game, a fallen titan transformed into a giant, less than 10 stories tall to fight the players. This was simply unthinkable in the world of Azeroth. It was extremely difficult for titans to enter other worlds because of their large size. If they could shrink to the size of the Guardians, Shaman would not have been unable to pass through the portal in the ancient war. It was extremely difficult and painful for a titan to shrink to a height of less than 100 meters. It was like a 2-meter-tall man forcing himself into a drawer. Even if he knew how to shrink his bones, it would still be a pain in the ass. If it was not necessary, such as to pass through the portal, where would a titan shrink so small? After Therazane's elemental probing, Duque roughly determined the volume of the lowest level of the burning throne. It was a huge hole 3 kilometers high and 100 kilometers in diameter. Taking into account factors such as comfort, Duque estimated that Argus the Nirvanic would be about 1,000 meters tall in its normal state. As for the mass, it was probably in units of 10,000 tons. This deduction left all the Alliance heroes dumbfounded. If everyone rushed to the burning throne and suddenly found that the enemy was this size, they would probably retreat in despair even if they were not wiped out. There was no hope of success in challenging an enemy that was not on the same level. After weighing it, even if they used their most powerful attacks, they would only scratch the Nirvanic. Hearing this information, Hoof stuck out his tongue in shock. Duque was not surprised at all. Titans refer to very, very large existences. Since the titans of the Pantheon are formed from the souls of planets, Argus, the fallen titan, would not be too small even if it was malnourished. Otherwise, why do you think I had to sneak into Argus and plunder the elemental resources here first? After Duque dispersed the 4 elemental lords to cause trouble, and then used a diversion to confuse the higher-ups of the army, on the 16th day, he finally could not hide it anymore. The huge planet Argus was covered in dark energy, and the entire planet was green. That strange light green color itself represented an immeasurable amount of destructive energy. Energy that destroys life and souls. The energy obtained by destroying planets and galaxies. These energies had made Argus stronger, but the chaotic nature of the dark energy had also reduced the perception of Argus the Terminator. For example, a patient in the final stage of diabetes would often get injured due to a careless wound, causing the wound to fester, and even the entire arm or leg would need to be amputated. Being numb didn't mean that one couldn't notice the wound. When the wound was big enough, it was impossible not to notice it. Furthermore, in order to prevent Smodron and Therazane from controlling too much of the fire and earth elements tainted by evil energy, Duque had set a time for them to return every day to be baptized by the holy light. After more than 80% of the water element, 43% of the fire element, 55% of the wind element, and 41% of the earth element on planet Argus were forcibly seized by the 4 elemental lords, Argus the Terminator finally realized that something was wrong. Roar! It was a world-shaking roar that resounded throughout the entire Antorus burning throne. Who? Who is it? Who is robbing me of my resources? Despicable thief, come out. Argus the Terminator's furious roar alarmed the entire upper echelons of the Burning Legion, including, of course, the Havoc Witches. They split into 3 groups. The 2 matriarchs stayed behind. The matriarch of Flames, Nora, rushed out of the burning throne to personally patrol, and the matriarch of the universe, Soraya, rushed to the end of the burning throne. Argus, what the hell happened? After venting his anger, Argus finally said, elements. My elements have been stolen. 1. No, a total of 4 extremely powerful elemental thieves have stolen a large portion of my control over the elements of the entire planet. The matriarchs were all extremely cunning beings. Perhaps their lack of imagination made them unable to immediately associate it with Duque's bold and unconstrained fighting style. Since Argus mentioned 4 powerful elemental thieves, it was not hard to imagine the culprit. To be able to steal the power of a titan, this elemental creature itself was very strong. Besides, it was either they didn't come, or there were 4 of them. Soraya suddenly came to a realization. Damn it! It's the 4 elemental lords of Azeroth. Of course, she knew who the 4 elemental lords of Azeroth listened to. The elemental demigod Duke Marcus on that damned planet had long been the army's #1 enemy. Sargeras and Jaden's fear of Duque was on par with the Pantheons. No matter how much Soraya didn't get along with the other lords, she didn't dare to hide or hesitate in such a big matter. Unfortunately, it was too late. As soon as the Terminator's rage was vented, Duque knew. Duque, who had secretly set up a magic net all over Argus a long time ago, informed all the experts of the Allied army immediately. There were only 2 words in the order, do it. On this day, the one in charge of representing the army's upper echelons was Admiral Aphrax of the Antoran Command Council. Of course, the noble admiral didn't need to patrol the area on foot. She piloted a fleet consisting of 1 space battleship, 3 cruisers, and 8 frigates, and patrolled the area within a 1,000-mile radius of the Burning Throne. This female General Eridar had red skin similar to Jaden's, and always wore heavy armor. She was one of the rare experts who didn't sell her body, didn't rely on witchcraft, and only relied on her own strength to climb to a high position. But she didn't expect that there would be an enemy who dared to attack her flagship under Argus. Beep! Suddenly, an alarm sounded on the bridge. Alarm? Is it a false alarm? Eridar's crew was a little confused. Which blind damn lord is it? Aphrax frowned. In the next second, she found out that she was wrong. His flagship let out a loud explosion, and the entire bridge was filled with light and shadows. In the blink of an eye, she saw the sky outside. It wasn't something displayed on the screen, but an extremely powerful existence that directly destroyed the deck of the flagship, passed through the large gap of the height of 3 people, and killed its way in. An arc blade surrounded by evil green light easily cut open the stomachs of a few elite demons that rushed up, and the perpetrator entered the admiral's sight. The first thing she saw was a pair of curved demon horns that were no different from those of the Eridar race. A hybrid demon? Aphrax frowned. Chapter 2057. She suddenly understood why she couldn't find the enemy. These self-proclaimed demon hunters had injected the flesh and souls of demons into their bodies. After suppressing the souls of the demons, they used the power of the demons to attack the Burning Legion. However, the Legion lacked effective detection methods. Unlike those who played with the holy light, those guys were as obvious as lighthouses in the dark in the eyes of the demons. These half-demons, on the other hand, were no different from ordinary weak demons in terms of smell and other senses. But after seeing who it was, Svrak suddenly stood up and gritted her teeth, Illidan Stormrage. You traitor, how dare you! That's right, it was the great traitor Illidan who had betrayed her twice. Traitor? Under the blindfold, Illidan's big mouth grinned, and the sharp shark teeth in his mouth looked extremely ferocious. Sorry, from 10,000 years ago, I pretended to join Sargeras in order to destroy the Burning Legion. I have never betrayed my people. At this time, a pleasant female voice came from outside the broken hole. Got it. Got it. Hurry up and get to work. Yes, Tyrande. Only Tyrande could order Illidan around. With Tyrande's order, Illidan suddenly pounced on her like a ferocious beast staring at its prey. Don't look down on me. Admiral Svrax shouted angrily and went up to meet him without any fear. However, the thought was beautiful, but the reality was harsh. The admiral, who could summon the wind and rain in Argus, immediately realized that there was a clear gap between her and her opponent. The most important thing was Illidan's mana burn. This move was simply shameless. By activating all the evil energy in the surroundings and using a curse to directly hit the opponent's magic circuit, it would produce an explosive effect. High-level Pharaoh definitely had more than one magic circuit. The specific amount of damage would depend on which part of the magic circuit was hit by the curse. It didn't matter if it caused the opponent's magic backlash. The key was that the entire magic circuit, and even the other circuits that were connected to the circuit, would lose all the magic inside. Without magic, this fierce female general of Eridar was just AF * King foot soldier. When it came to close combat, Illidan had extremely rich experience. Moreover, the attack speed bonus provided by Azanatha's dual blades was unparalleled in the world. A round of slashes from the blades would leave countless wounds on Svrax's body. From the looks of it, she had actually turned into a terrifying bloody person in just a few moves. If she were still in the Antoran Command Council, her two partners would definitely save her. Unfortunately, both of them were not here. Ishka the chief engineer was in the Burning Throne. Meanwhile, General Elidus was on another warship, patrolling in another direction. He was at least 500 kilometers away from her. In fact, General Elidus did not have the spare time to save her because he had also encountered a rare and powerful enemy. Who are you? Do you know that you are provoking the mighty Burning Legion? Faced with the three female elves who had charged into his flagship and were approaching him aggressively from the bridge, General Elidus was on the verge of collapse. Where did these three ferocious girls come from? A moment ago, he was still happily watching his Eridar dancers sing and dance in front of him. The next second, the entire bridge was swept away by the violent lightning and wind elemental power. Before he could even react, his chest had already been pierced by an arrow that contained extremely high lightning energy. Not dying on the spot was already due to his high constitution. Ordinary Void Lords would have already knelt down. Provoke? Ha! The female elven demigod who was the leader let out a light laugh. My man once killed a clone of Sargeras. He enjoyed the glory of a god-slayer. I will reluctantly list Argus the Silent Destroyer as my prey. As for you. She did not continue speaking. Her sisters had already raised their divine longbows and gave the final blow to this Eridar general. Not only the two Eridar generals, but also Sargeras' two pet dogs. They followed in their footsteps and died in the ambush. They were originally very strong, like the three heads of the Antoran Parliament. They had a series of special combination skills such as life-sharing. Under normal circumstances, if they attacked the Burning Throne, they would be forced to fight them on their home ground. They would have to face the entropy mines all over the ground, which was extremely annoying. Duque had lured the enemy and feigned an attack, causing the army to foolishly let the three heads of the Antoran Parliament split up. Not only did they move alone, they even split up the two dogs. This gave the allied army a chance to defeat them one by one. Duque did not think about such a small matter as whether the heroes of the allied army could complete the mission. If they could not even deal with the enemies that they had split up, then they would not be heroes. In the past, Duque would be very happy if he could get rid of the opposing boss in advance. When one's strength and status were high, there were some things that he did not care about. From the beginning to the end, Duque's gaze was locked on the last two titans in the Antorus burning throne. Other than the two of them, there were no other bosses worthy of Duque's attention. Getting rid of the second and third bosses in the burning throne in advance was just a small appetizer. When Duque said, "attack," it included the order to serve the main course. The sky here was too disgusting, and it was full of hatred. The chaotic evil energy created violent turbulence, and no flying creature could fly in such a sky. When Prince Thunderin occupied the Nether River, where the burning throne was, everything was possible. Originally, the entire area by the Nether River was filled with burning Legion soldiers because of the martial law. It was not enough to describe the tight security. Whether it was sneaking in or attacking, it would be very difficult. Duque changed his train of thought. Woo, woo, accompanied by a strange sound, all the demons by the Nether River saw a huge meteorite fall from the sky. At this time, no demon thought that it was a real meteorite. What the hell? Which idiot drove a spaceship here? Who cares, an idiot who doesn't know the rules. His soul will naturally fall into the hands of those goddamn matriarchs, and then there will be a good show to watch. The demons were still talking about it at first. Later, everyone realized that something was wrong. This was a real meteorite, not some descending spaceship. And this meteorite was too huge. What was even more unbelievable was that when the meteorite rushed into the atmosphere of Argus, it did not burn up due to the high-speed fall. It felt like it did not even take much effort to break through the atmosphere. Normally, this would be impossible. You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.